If there's someone else to burn, you do it. Oh, and I should be ashamed, but I'm through with it. Yeah, yeah. Think I've had enough of you and I. Oh, I think I had enough of this. This is my life. I got it. The story I write. I got it, but this can't be right. No, it's so dark around here. I'm leaving you now. It's always about you, your problems. Yeah, you put it all on me to solve them. Oh, I think I've had enough. It has to be. Oh, another time and place for me. This is my life. I got it. The story I write. I got it, but this can't be right. No, it's so dark around here. I'm leaving you now. I'm leaving you now. Yeah, yeah. It's what I gotta do. It's what I gotta do. Gotta do right now. I'm leaving you now. It's time, yeah. I think that it's time. It's time, baby. Oh yeah. This is my life. I got it. The story I write. I got it, but this can't be right. No, it's so dark around here.
Hello.
Oh, I'm leaving you now.
Welcome back to another Surviving Mars live stream. I have been playing Modern Warfare, but you know what? Surviving Mars still has that itch I'm trying to scratch, so we're back at it again. Also, let's just turn this. I'll turn it on later. But anyways, so we're clearly starting a new game, and I want to show. This is for the records, to be honest. I don't really care for anyone watching right now, but I'm gonna just show what I've set up. What I plan on setting up here. So anyways, so we're playing as Space Y again. Here's all the stuff that I need with it. I'm playing as the inventor. United States badge. We're going for the mystery dredgers right now, which clearly is going to be hostile aliens from the sounds of it. We have a mod to have all the colonies, so we don't have to think about this. This time, I'm not gonna have prefab colony, so it'll be much harder now. We still have increased production, but everything else is tech variety. So we have Armageddon, Dust in the Wind, Twister, and Winter is Coming. There's some new mods I added, by the way, just letting you know. So yes, we have all that set up now, and I just wanted to show this for the record, like I said, because I already have a setup here. Before anything else, let me just change the banner. Change the banner. There we go. There we go, load the game. So, I did my research as a rocket scientist, NASA scientist, goddamn space, whatever the fuck at this point you want to call it. So, I already have a save game, I did my research, and this is what I found. So, this... Wait, I have music on. Let's bring back this thing, shall we?
It's interesting to talk about really where is there money to be made in space.
This is not the internet where you build up a huge user base and then you figure out how to monetize them later.
There's power.
There's a subset of the community.
Okay, I'm gonna play that in the background like usual.
Blue Origin, and
Now,
March Madness. It's
so
one
there's
and done. I
two
got one shot to get
points
to
of
the
interest
end,
I want to
or
focus on.
else I'm either
So
gonna
this
fail
is,
or
I think, the
I'm
best
gonna
research
be
site I've
picked
ever
up by
seen.
someone else.
This has 15 research boost, and this one also has 15 research boost. So I have a base here. That's gonna be a lot of science. So we're gonna do that later though. We need to do this first.
Startups are super tough and incredibly tough in this industry. So
We're gonna drop
unfortunately,
over
I think a
here
lot of those companies
and
are
just
going
start
to
setting
fail.
up basic.
I think space is the final frontier. I think you see so much excitement and so much interest because the potential is real.
Once you have that cheap access to space, now you have entirely new business models that close that didn't before.
The way that people have made money commercially in space has been like just bouncing signals off the satellites. And so industrialization of space is like a new sector for space.
The real thing we want is not just to make something profitable in space, but to make being in space profitable.
So this time I only have one drone. I bought one drone from this entire rocket. Because I have other rockets coming right now. We have Space Force and we have AI Space Factory, a new company I added, a new rocket I added into. They're a real company, by the way. Just letting you know. So this time I only have one drone for the entire process. I'm gonna start from the bottom basically.
T-minus 10, 9, 8,
Lower the
7,
volume.
6, 5.
Oh, so we got some new buildings here, but I need the new research stuff going on. Here's the new research, if you're wondering. It's a new. You can't see it by the way, but there you go. So we got some new modded buildings. So that will hopefully change things up a bit. I'm currently working on this one. Next time I might work on cargo, I guess.
Like March Madness to me. It's one and done. I got one shot to get to
So let's
the
go get
end,
some
or else I'm
concrete,
either gonna
like
fail,
right
run out
now.
of money, or be gobbled up by someone else.
And whoever figures out how to make launch safe, affordable, and convenient is going to take
Oh wait,
the
this is the
next
wrong one.
giant leap.
I'm gonna get some concrete right.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
60 years into the space race, the way we leave Earth has changed remarkably.
0, all engine running. Liftoff. We have a
I'm gonna set my base here, by the way. The water and everything.
Space seemed like a vast black.
But I don't need this water right now, do I? Or maybe I should.
I'm talking about
No. Let's set up the dome. Now, right away, I don't have prefabs, so I don't have the big dome anymore. So I need to start with a small dome. We're starting from the very bottom, basically. Which is, you know, cool. That's gonna be a cool idea, but still, oh my god, it's gonna be hard.
Space Launch Act, the desert has begun blooming.
I think if you were a young person in 1969 and you saw people walking on the moon, and 50 years later we still haven't gone back, I think that's a little disappointing. I think they took that, their hopes and dreams of their youth and are applying it in today's marketplace. And I think they're having a fantastic success.
In the world of rocket launch, there are two
So
very
we
distinct
need
races
metal
going
and
on.
concrete.
The first are the large rocket companies like SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, and Blue Origin.
I feel sorry for this one drone. Let's rename this drone.
Billions already in Blue Origin.
We call this drone, Founder Drone. No, wait, Curiosity Drone. Tiny drone. Not even a rover version, just a drone.
In order to fund both development and operations of its vehicles.
Liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket.
But they aren't the only players in the game. There's a heated race picking up between small.
We only have
and
one
medium launch
moisturizer this time.
companies.
So I'm really starting from the very bottom. And this is intentional because I want to challenge myself. Every freaking time. What's wrong with me?
How can we get there fast?
Companies like Rocket Lab, Relativity, Firefly, and Virgin Orbit.
What's happening?
Right now,
No,
there are
stop.
more than
You do it.
100 small launch companies competing, not just to get to space, but to see who can get there most reliably, cheapest, and then repeat it over and over and
That
over
might be too
again.
much metal, so for now I'm gonna have to start
And
from the very
ideally,
bottom.
end up with their
Because I
business
don't have
on
anything.
track.
I'm not kidding.
Because entire new industries
I'll start from the
rely on
bottom,
these
so
launch
this requires
companies
5,
getting payloads
so...
into orbit. And any missteps can spell disaster, not just for a rocket, but an entire company.
There is a $200+ billion commercial space industry right now today. There are a couple of huge markets that have been very profitable.
The most profitable is the satellite industry. In 2018, the global space economy was estimated to be around $360 billion.
Okay, so the 2 rockets are here.
That is
Let's
the
land them.
satellite industry, which has actually grown over $100 billion over the past decade. And for those satellites to get to space, they need to be launched on a rocket. Global launches in 2018 increased by 46% over the number of launches a decade ago. In many respects, it's never been easier to put a satellite into space in terms of the cost and the availability of rockets to ride into orbit. And a new era of smaller, cheaper satellite technology is creating this boom.
Yeah, look at that.
Once a year,
So here's the other guys
the
ready to help
Satellite
out.
Resources are low. Conference comes to Logan. It has all the trademark features of an industry trade show: bright lanyards, tons of swag. But the deals happening here are carving out what the future of the space economy will look like.
I've been coming to this conference for 20 years. And
Hey there, Doomslayer. Welcome to stream. I'm making a base on Mars where you start killing demons.
That transition as we move into the next phase.
Traditional satellites are often powerful behemoths, the size of school buses, costing hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to build. Today, the proliferation of small sats, CubeSats, even nanosats can cost as little as $10,000.
I should be working on that later. I should find more
hardware that goes into your cell phone.
They range from the size of a Rubik's Cube up to about the size of a dorm room refrigerator. And so that's a big difference. And so some of these launch ventures want to launch a few dorm-size refrigerators, and others want to launch dozens of CubeSats. And so they're trying to divide the market that way.
Those satellites are providing imaging of the Earth. They're potentially providing telecommunications services, and they're attracting quite a lot of investment. Tens, hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars.
Research complete. Anomaly analyzed. Milestone achieved.
Really what's driving this huge number of satellites that are going into orbit. In the
Let's check out large universal depot.
If not tens,
I mean, again, we can't really get any of this at the moment. It will take a while.
The question is, are they
But it's cool that we have a new technology that I had never experimented before. I want to know what it is.
The idea is that entire
Hello!
business models
Nano environment, breakthrough, plasma rockets, superior cables, and superior pipes.
Data collected from these small sats will be used by everyone.
Let's see. I think nano refinement is the one where if you run out, they'll still produce resources, which is useful.
Android or iPhone generation to the current generation. Similar things
Super fungus, food, plasma rockets, faster rockets. My rockets are already fast, but if I make them faster, Superior cables and superior pipes will help me a lot with leakage, and I don't have to worry about them anymore. But I'm already used to them, so I think nano refinement, I think, is what I'm going for.
And that's where the small launch
So I have like an infinite amount of resources. I mean, it's gonna be decreased, but you know, all extractors continue to extract small amounts when they're deployed. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about.
A large launch vehicle on
Yeah, let's spend some money on that.
as opposed to
What's my money?
$50 to $100 million, and there are more customers.
Say you have a small sat that you want to launch into orbit. Think of the big companies like SpaceX as a bus, and the small and medium launch companies like Rocket Lab as a taxi. With large launches, you're
more
at the back of the
metals.
bus.
Yeah, I'm trying to do. Oh wait, if we need more metals, let's set up our sensors.
Your small
Hard
sat
at the
is just
moment, but
piggybacking
soon
off
though.
that primary, since they bought the majority of the rocket. With small launches like Rocket Lab, you and your small sat can dictate more of your terms on when and how you'll fly, and you'll pay for the whole ride. So booking a taxi for a small sat gives you more flexibility about when and exactly where you
I will
want
set
to
up
go
base
to
over here,
orbit.
so we're not gonna do
But
this yet.
it's more expensive. Sometimes a rideshare on a big rocket and the chance to save on your launch expense is more suitable depending on the satellite, its mission, and the budget. Far more important is the orbital inclination, or the angle of the satellite's orbit relative to the equator. It's much easier to move a satellite into a higher or lower orbit than to change its inclination, and that's why all launch customers have to decide how their mission priorities and budget can align when choosing how to get to space.
We're still working on that. This hasn't been on yet.
Hitching a ride on the really big rockets. It works for some people, it doesn't work for all business cases. And so you've got small sat ventures.
I can destroy one of my rockets actually.
Those
I can get a lot of resources out of
which
it.
of these small rocket companies succeeds and
I should
which of the
think about doing that at some
fail.
point.
This is not
But
the
right now we're
internet
good.
where you build a huge user base and then you figure out how to monetize them later. Launch doesn't work that way. You've got to build.
Anyways, let me actually change the way how that looks
Out of the
now.
more than 120 small and medium-sized
Gonna
launch companies out
change
there, just
text.
one is successfully launching rockets for customers right
Filters.
now, and that is Rocket Lab.
People can actually rock on up to us and we'll fly them.
Have like a
That's
gradient
great
version.
competitive advantage to have over folks that are still
Game's already in
developing the
use.
Peter Beck's Rocket Lab has raised over $280 million from outside investors, with a valuation of more than $1 billion, and is currently flying a rocket every 30 days.
It looked like the hardest thing to do was to go
Okay,
from 0 to
now I have power, but the problem is it's nighttime.
really going from first successful orbit
So I could add. I mean, I'm waiting for solar arrays, but for now, maybe we need some. Right now, I'm thinking of combining all sources of power because it's gonna take a while before we can get the big technology going on. So yeah, we're just gonna have to use all possible resources just to make my life miserable, but at the same time exciting because that's me.
And while other rocket companies are looking to
I like
build their
that. I
customer
like playing
base,
that way. It's
Rocket
stupid,
Lab
but
can't meet
you
the
know.
rising demand for launches.
Our biggest issue is we can't build enough rockets. That is our challenge. We've built 4.5 acres of.
We don't have any concrete yet. We have to wait.
We are pushing in every direction we can to.
Is that connected? Oh God.
We fear that there aren't. We are the only dedicated solution available in the marketplace right now at an affordable price. So we see a tremendous.
Okay.
Research complete.
And finally, we've got some concrete.
That's not the issue. The issue is
Oh
figuring
God,
out
where did these tornadoes came from?
scale and cadence,
I just started, you
prices as
bastards.
low as possible.
Stop.
And each company
Stay away from
has
the
its own
rocket.
approach.
Every company has
Where's
a
my... Oh no, it's in the middle all of it. Run! Run, little buddy.
solids, fuels, or a combination
Oh
of
God, they're surrounded by these things.
their stages. Everyone has their unique
And-
approach to getting to a rocket.
However, the bottom line is good business in
Damn.
space is exactly like
May
good
have picked the
business.
wrong neighborhood.
A focus on customers, incremental successes, and a vision that's supported by a real business model is what works
As far
in
as
space.
no maintenance will help me save a lot of resources.
One of the companies who believes they have a successful business model
Okay,
is
morning, night.
Firefly, a medium-sized launch company
Sector
based
scanned.
out of Austin, Texas.
Oh, you stop. There's no more metal anywhere. I'm gonna have to get technology. There's all the oh, here's the metal.
Starting from ambient with a window of 1.
So in the next 6 months, Firefly's going to launch this rocket. We've been working on it for years now. And
I should
we
get
have that
some more
cathartic
part of
moment where we
it.
launch the rocket, everything's going to go great.
But the outlook for
Maybe get more of
Firefly
that.
wasn't always so rosy.
That's too much money. We'll just have to use what resource we have here.
Building the rocket company, and you have a lot of setbacks. You have technical setbacks, you have financial setbacks, but the most challenging one for me has been the financial setbacks.
Firefly, like many other rocket companies, is familiar with financial setbacks. Vector, one of the more well-known launch startups,
I only have one
ran into
fuel
financial
refinery,
woes
so I
in the
can't really
summer
do
of
that.
2019, and saw their CEO depart amid uncertainty about the company's future. Back in 2017, Firefly, then known as Firefly Space Systems, was saddled with financial instability and filed for bankruptcy. That's when Silicon Valley investment fund Noosphere Ventures swooped in, bought their assets, and rebranded the company to Firefly Aerospace.
I've learned a lot about the types of investors that you want to have involved in this. That learning has made us, I think, very strong to push through this time.
As an investor and as sort of one of the financial sort of
Research complete.
behind the company, I try to encourage the team to think beyond simply building a product. but building a business.
Thank God we went bankrupt, frankly. We have a better product now. I have a better partner who lets me do what I'm good at doing, and he
God damn it! I didn't mean to.
And I'm not off, humping the .com guy's legs. Please give me another $100,000.
Okay, we need to work on this. Where's the concrete? Out.
Our plan is to have 5 launches next year. All 5 of them will be from Vandenberg Air Force Base.
But I can't build any of them without the power source, so fuck.
But the next thing is start adding
That's all I can do.
As an
There's no power source producing anything, so this hasn't even worked on yet.
And we want to do things in a different way.
Companies like Firefly are hard-pressed to differentiate themselves to stand out to investors and attract customers.
We're differentiated by our payload class. Even amongst small launchers, we're a big small launcher. So our first rocket, Alpha, is capable of carrying 1,000 kilograms, whereas our competitors are more in the 500 kilograms and less area.
That bigger payload means they can service bigger clients such as NASA and other federal agencies.
Passage hub is something new. I've never tried this before, so hopefully this will help me, make everything easier to get people around. Pretty cool though. How this works. Oh, finally they made.
Milestone achieved.
And voila. Now working on this. Need more power. So that's what I'm hoping. A power. Okay, now we have enough power. I'm producing exactly negative. Oh, 8, just 8.
Flight rates. We expect to be cash flow positive by the end of 2020. We're very conscious of cost. That's one of the fundamental tenets of new space. So Firefly will try to be competitive with anyone, and we take all competition seriously.
That competition comes not only from other small and medium launch companies, but large ones as well, like SpaceX, who announced a small sat solution priced as low as $1 million for payloads up to 150 kilograms.
Which equates approximately $15,000 per kilogram.
This is not connected? Oh my god, it's not connected. Because of this thing. I guess I'll have to connect it to here.
Firefly believes they can deliver something that Elon Musk's space giant cannot.
Unlike SpaceX, where those satellites will be one of many, quite possibly.
So, because this is gonna be dedicatedly just, business, and I'll be focusing on making people live outside, which is gonna be terrible for everyone, but it's the only thing I can think of to make this work. So yes, we're going very hard on the colonist lifestyle. But this is, that's gonna make the game more harder, but interesting for me, It's the whole reason why I'm doing this, which is stupid, but I like doing that, so stop. Just stop.
We're building a multi-billion-dollar business, and in order to do that, we know that we need to be cost competitive with whatever the market throws at us, not just simply what the competition is doing today.
So we need to put a plug on here and here, and we'll plug this area. I'm learning. Okay, this is a weird design, but I think it's necessary just to get the game going. I also need to develop relationships with everyone so I can get technology as quickly as possible. And I think my first one should be calling international Mars missions.
That we modified, and it has an
problem is I don't have any resource to give at the moment. We'll have to wait out.
Kerosene rocket that has been flown before, and it
we need science.
Has many successes.
I can't do science at the moment because this is gonna be the main base for science, and I'm so far away I won't be able to build anything.
Small satellites, which they believe is a difference maker in the industry.
Everything we built around the air launch system is meant to mitigate against long-term delays. For example, an air launch system can fly in most weather conditions. Because we're
so for now, we'll focus on getting money. So we're not gonna set up science here for now. We just need money.
Build a rocket, attach to the plane, and take off on a mission. And having that flexibility, having that quick cadence.
We're about to run out of power soon.
Is critical to making sure that payloads.
That's all I can produce right now.
When they want to get there.
That flexibility is what most small launch companies hope will set them apart.
That responsive, rapid launch to exactly where you want to go, that appeals to government users, government missions, scientific missions. government military missions, government intelligence missions are all exploring
Sector
the potential
scanned.
for lower total cost, small launch vehicles that can do exactly what they need when they need.
And without even having a successful full-duration test launch, Virgin Orbit already has a backlog of customers.
Of course, we see the market expanding. There's a lot of potential out there. So we certainly could see ourselves providing even more launch support than...
And the elevation though is terrible.
Of course, that is
Doesn't
the
make
more
much
mid to
power.
long-term goal.
The future for companies like Rocket Lab, Firefly and Virgin Orbit looks promising. But what about the hundreds of smaller launch companies out there?
I have a should not. It's useful. It's not useful.
Demand for 100 and some odd rockets that are currently in development.
We absolutely believe that the window to invest in launch has already closed. There are some investors who made some
We
early
need a
good plays
farm.
that are going
Have
to
any
work
farm
out very
technology
well,
at the
but
moment?
this
Just
point,
one.
the
I guess I'll
industry
put one
is
farm in the
well
middle.
past that kind of venture
Put it
capital
somewhere
investment
here.
stage, in our opinion. So we see it shaking out to
I can
maybe
put
10 companies.
yeah, I can put like 20 officers here to decrease sanity loss. Maybe not. We need to start from the very basic. So I think farm in the center is the best idea I can think of. Now we need groceries.
You're having a bad run of luck.
Open gyms.
You don't get a whole lot of patience out of the market before people start using other rockets.
The technology of space activities is fascinating.
I need to get the money.
Are extraordinary. The competence that it requires to conduct operations in space is intimidating.
The launch industry has an energized, passionate collection of
Need to get money.
engineers,
That's my
venture
main focus now.
investors
So
and designers, singularly focused on moving private enterprise off the planet. It's not just a new industry, but a new way of seeing the world and working above it.
Once you have that cheap access to space, now you have entirely new business models that closed that didn't before. You have entirely new use cases for space as an environment. You have an entire ecosystem of support services
average. We'll have to focus on this one first.
satellites that are being launched.
Electronics and machine parts. I think that's what I want to do here. Just set up a base to build this stuff. Yeah, we'll just set up. So this will be my main focus then. Engineering. It's gonna be very different style.
We're just starting to see emails. And if you think of
I think I should put it
you
here.
started sending emails, and if I said to you all of the stuff that was going to occur because of the internet, you wouldn't believe me, right? You would think that's just crazy.
Yeah, I can't do
But
that. I
that's
guess I
where
have to do
we're
this.
at right now. We've sent our first email, and now space is opened up to innovators to really try new things.
That's why perfecting a world of launch is just the beginning. Rockets aren't just providing a platform for spaceflight, but a platform for innovation. As we figure out the business of how we get to space, the next problem is where do we stay? On the next episode of
So
Giant Leap,
we can have. I can bring 6 engineers, and possibly how many again for this one I forgot. Let me see. Okay, so 4 per shift. So I can get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12. Yeah, I'm gonna need 4 geologists and 6 engineers. Yeah, 6 engineers, 4 geologists. Split them up. So let's see, 4, like 6. So that's 5, so that's 10. So 2. I need medical treatment. Right, first I need medical treatment.
Living away from Earth has always captured our imagination. As well as providing the basics for survival, these ideas are a symbol of humankind's unique creativity and ambition.
Engineers, I need open air, training. Kinda wanna, be buddies with Japan right now so I can get some very good buildings right now. But I won't be able to do anything at the moment.
It's about making
because
our
it will take a while
lives
for
the
me to
best
get
we can
there.
make it. It's about, as a species,
And still
having
get
a path for
stuff
our future.
going.
And the mission to create these
I can already launch
habitats
one
is
of them
well
out.
underway, as
So
private companies get ready to take that next giant
what can I
leap.
trade? I won't be able to trade much right now. Gonna have to wait it out. Need to get all. Just
the
step out of
International
the way,
Space
though.
Station. It's the only space habitat we have.
One of the first
You
places
have one
they take you
prefab,
in the
please.
ISS is the cupola. So you can finally look at the Earth in all its beauty. And I don't care who you are, it's always stunning, it's shocking, it's amazing, because that's the view you've been waiting for your entire life.
It passes over 90% of the world's population without most of us
I won't be able to get any of those at the moment, so maybe move it here.
estimated cost of $100
And then go
billion.
there.
It's
No,
the most
actually, I can't
expensive
do that.
object we've ever built.
You think about like the Sistine Chapel, the pyramids, and the Burj Khalifa, or take your pick. I mean, it far outstrips those.
Yeah, I guess I have to do that.
It's the one and only non-terrestrial human outpost. We've had a constant human footprint in orbit for almost 20 years because of the International Space Station.
The collaboration between 15 countries started construction in 1998 and was pieced together in space over the course of a decade. Since 2000, it's been a permanently crewed research laboratory,
what do I do
a
here?
space habitat that's allowed humankind to live, manufacture, and explore beyond Earth.
The overarching achievement of the space station has been education. It has educated us about how to do research, it's educated us about how to live, it's educated us about the harshness of the environment that it is in, and it's about learning, I think.
People say, what was one of your favorite parts about being up there? Hands down, floating everywhere I went. But your first impressions for ISS certainly
I will do it here.
It's how big it is.
The ISS is the size of an American football field, with most of that footprint taken up by 8 solar arrays. These provide enough energy to power 40 homes. The station has an American side and a Russian side, as well as contributions from other nations like Canada, Japan, and the European Union. Astronauts on board can pass freely between these sections. Their living and working areas are made up of modules, each 4.2 meters in diameter. In total, they have the same volume as the Boeing 747. The 3 main labs, Destiny, Hope, and Columbus, are conducting up to 600 ongoing experiments at any one time. While it's been a collaboration between governments to build and maintain the ISS, its next chapter will rely more on private enterprise.
Today is a very remarkable day. NASA is opening the International Space Station to commercial opportunities. And
Security stuff won't be a thing. Wow.
Managing and maintaining the ISS costs
Definitely protect everyone. But it's not gonna...
a year.
Oh wait, I forgot about my botanist. So I need, I guess, 4 geologists and 4 engineers, and then I'll have 3 botanists. So let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 3 botanists, 1 medic.
Have numerous providers that are competing against each other on cost and innovation.
I can go for the perfect
With
peak.
federal funding proposed to stop in
Yeah, let's go for the perfect
2025, opening the station to private enterprise would free up resources.
Um,
Space Agency's
and
ambitions
the youngest.
to return to the moon and journey to Mars.
So I need.
Commercial model
Oh
is
god, I
allowing
can't get
industry to
engineers.
take
It's not
over
enough.
many of those areas that NASA has traditionally been responsible for, like the design and
There's only 2
operations
engineers.
and maintenance of space systems. But the most exciting
Okay,
part, I
so
think, is new opportunities. The iPhones would have never
we
come from
need
the government.
engineers, we need
The
geologists,
base technology
botanists, and a
came
med.
from the government, but the way it's used,
So
the
we're
way
gonna
it
lock
interacts
them.
with consumers, governments aren't
I
really
need-
built for that. So I think that'll be exciting to see how private industry uses the same technology or
1 medic
the
only,
same
right? Only 1
systems,
medic.
but
That's what
they're
I
using them in a different way.
Every NASA achievement has been the collaborative achievement of NASA and industry. What's going on right now that's
Okay,
a little
4
bit different
geologists,
is NASA is
2
turning to
engineers.
companies not to direct them
Okay.
what to do, but it's turning to companies to build
I
relationships
don't need
with
medics
them
anymore.
because those companies are attracting
need-
investment from non-space sources and are bringing a different kind of innovation to the table.
In the shadow of NASA's sprawling Johnson Space Center, the headquarters of startup Axiom Space might seem a little modest, but their goal is big: to build the first commercial space station.
We don't need lazy
Led by a former ISS
idiots,
program manager, the team has
whiners,
been involved in every mission to the station since its
photons,
inception.
hours.
we know it has to be much lower cost to operate on orbit than ISS.
Okay, there's 4 engineers, 4 geologists, 1 botanist. So that's exactly what I need.
Is to start there so
Name
we
this to Mars more.
evolve everybody to the next platform. I liken this to the internet. So the internet was created.
Gambler,
we got very
fit,
excited.
loner,
Any
nerd,
kid with a good idea and just the basic programming skills
and
could
sexy
go
rugged.
build a
Okay.
program to do something. We have huge
Launch.
companies that grew out of that.
Stamp.
And still today, there's new ideas. New
Okay, we can have Marsha out
The thing
here.
about a microgravity environment is it's limitless. It's like the data we have access to on the internet is limitless. And it is not immediately obvious to us all the benefits
This is
that
gonna
that's
be a
gonna
terrible
entail.
place for people.
But over time, it
So I
will
need to
become
make sure that they
very,
at
very
least get, you know, of the comfort I can provide for
Axiom plans to send a central node to attach to the ISS. That will make up the core of their new station. This will be followed by crew quarters for 16 people and research and manufacturing modules. When the ISS is retired, this will break away, and additional modules with a lifespan
I need
of 20 years will be
a
used
good
to
amount
adapt
of
as they age
power.
using a robotic arm. And they're hoping to do all of this for 1/50th the cost of the ISS.
I mean, when you talk about our vision, it sounds really simple. It really is about driving the thought process and the cost down so that anybody
Sector
that wants
scan.
to take advantage
Anomaly
of
found.
our place in orbit
We
and a
need-
microgravity
oh, shit.
environment can do so. And that's really it. The International Space Station is a fantastic vehicle, but one of the big things is they have quite a few
one grocery I
major
think is good
components
enough.
outside,
Now,
which means you have to do an EVA. a
many
spacewalk
people
to
get
go
served
fix
by
it.
this.
A spacewalk on a good day. 100 hours
Distributes hot meal, fresh produce, food shopping. I wish it tells me how many people are getting meal.
The reduced size of components, and so our design is going to have all of the components in our vehicle.
We don't need
So
any
we know what
of
the
this
basics
right now.
are, water, food, clothing, life support,
I guess I never
and we
did
know how
that.
to handle those. And now the next step is how do we make it more intuitive? And we want to now take advantage of the technologies and the capabilities of today to build more
Oh,
luxury
shit.
into the experience.
Gonna have
The
to
objective is to
spend
make the
some
environment
machinery
the
on that.
background for all the users. You're every day doing whatever you want to do on orbit, research, manufacturing, looking out.
I guess I'll put this out now. I'm not gonna
We want
finish
you to be
build.
able to do that and not even think about the environment. And it's because of our experience on ISS and what the team brings to Axiom Space, we're able to build that environment. You won't worry about that.
3, 2, 1, release, release, release.
Like Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin, Axiom is hoping to attract space tourists with tickets starting at $55 million for a 10-day mission. But that's just one part of the commercial space station market that they think could be worth $37 billion over the next decade.
Our first commercial customers are countries who have astronauts in space and want to expand their activity in space, and countries who do not yet have a human spaceflight program and want to send people up. And we've
Okay,
now got
so I can make
research
all
and
of them
manufacturing
fly
companies
at this point.
who work with
So
us while we're at the International
still
Space
need to
Station
improve
and
our
on
power
platform
supply.
that separates
It's
from
not
ISS.
gonna be enough power.
Human spaceflight is particularly exciting because
see
it's
we're
that
losing
slice
power.
of space that is really NASA.
I don't have
It
enough to
hasn't
produce the
undergone
metal that I
the
need.
crowding
Moment.
that satellites have had. It hasn't already had that explosive growth. It's really ready for that now. The first thing I'm really looking forward to seeing happen is the face of our first astronaut on orbit looking back down on us and knowing that we had a hand
If I
in
sacrifice
sending
one of them,
that person to space. And ultimately the separation of ISS when it's ready to be retired and deorbited, and then we continue in space independently.
Research
For me,
complete.
that is a stepping off moment for humanity. It's almost like when Neil Armstrong put that first boot on the moon. This will be the first time that we've gone from a platform of learning how to live in space to building our permanent home in space.
Should make this guy's flying.
Companies also want to use the ISS as the starting
Do I have
point
anything to
for
trade? No, I
ventures.
don't. So I
Bigelow
can't do trading right
Aerospace
now.
already has one of its inflatable structures attached to the station.
I'll just have AI Space Company fly. No, wait, SpaceX fly back.
Proposals.
I wish I can get them
Space
right.
habitats are expensive. I think it's a false dichotomy to
I'll just
say,
wait.
okay, we're
I mean,
done with the
I'm
International
not
Space
in any
Station, let's move on
threat
to
right
commercial platforms.
any of the
What I think is much more likely and realistic, and what NASA is certainly driving toward, is an incremental transition where commercial platforms attach to the space station or work collaboratively with the space station. The next chapter cannot occur without the active engagement of companies. That said, that active engagement might not be as customers, might not be as drivers, it might be in service of government mission objectives.
We will return American astronauts to the moon, not only to leave behind footprints and flags, but to build the foundation we need to send Americans to Mars and beyond.
This proposed mission, along with SpaceX's own ambition to reach a red planet, has opened up a longer-term market. Some companies are already thinking beyond orbiting habitats like space stations to actually building on the surface of other planets.
I was working in a firm designing skyscrapers, and I saw Elon, and he landed his Falcon X rocket in the middle of the ocean, and that for me was a trigger. I thought, wow, this could actually happen.
Milestone achieved. Crop failure reported.
On the moon or Mars.
New colonists have
If he's going
arrived.
at the pace he's going, it could definitely happen within my lifetime, and I want to be the one to build it.
In this warehouse, alongside startups from across the US, architecture firm AI Space Factory are refining
Sector
the production
scanned.
of Marsha. A four-story structure they created
Yeah, they all
in
live.
NASA competition
It'll suck
to
for them.
design the next generation of space habitats on Mars.
When we started designing our
Anomaly
Mars habitat, Marsha, I
analyzed.
think we looked at everything that had been done already and kind of tossed that aside. But what we were given was a set of guidelines from NASA. They think the best way to build a habitat on Mars or the moon is to use what they call in situ resource utilization. So use the materials that are there. If you've seen sci-fi movies, you might see like glass and steel domes on distant planets, but the reality is to ship that kind of material to the moon or Mars would be so exorbitantly expensive you would never be able to build in the first place. So the idea is to send a 3D printing robot which can then harvest the materials you find on a site and build with that.
The reusable print material is a mix of biopolymer made from recycled plastic or plants like corn and sugarcane, and basalt, a rock found on Mars and Earth.
It's full.
It's the rock
Oh
that
shit,
gives
I
this
didn't realize
its
that.
incredible strength. We've tested this material. It's 3 times as strong as concrete in compression, and it actually has what we call a tensile capacity to prevent itself from being pulled apart, which is something concrete's not very good at. You need to think at all times how do you optimize the amount of material that you use, and that's also why this thing is shaped like an egg. And if you think of an egg, it's a very structurally optimized form. It's very, very thin, but it provides the strength that the egg needs, and that's why this is shaped the way that it is.
The egg shape, as well as the nested shell structure, also accommodates for extreme differences in pressure and temperature
Oh shit,
on
I
the
completely
surface
forgot
of
about the
Mars.
power.
But more research still needs to be done to find out how print materials could be gathered and how 3D printing would work in the unique environment of space.
You're dealing with a completely different set
Should have bought like a
of
nuclear.
physics and environments, which is very harsh. The cold,
I'm
the
gonna grab
gravity,
one
the
generator,
vacuum of space,
put
you
it
know,
inside.
and finding solutions for how to build there or do anything in space just requires a high degree of innovation. There's no
Maybe.
such thing as brute force when it comes to space. Like, you need to think about the problem,
Just have to
find
rely
a
on
very
what
elegant,
happened.
lightweight, cost-effective solution. The next challenge is really going to places on Earth.
I need 10
dirt that
power
we're finding on the
to
site,
counter what's going on with the solar
be able to
panels.
perfect this technology on
I
Earth.
can get this,
and then we
but
would prove it
that
out
took a lot.
on the moon,
I can get
and
two
then
more
finally
of
on
this.
Full of
The
hope
first
and
customers
determination.
could include NASA and companies like SpaceX, who would lease out these
Let's see.
structures for
No machine
individual
parts.
missions.
So
For that, AI Space Factory
5.
technology could be monetized as well as transformational here on Earth.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go for
Challenges
this
of
one
building on
wind
Mars
turbine.
forced us to kind of make this jump in construction technology, which we can now apply on Earth to build more sustainably. So rather than building with steel and concrete, which are these manufactured, very energy-intensive materials, to go to a site, have a solar-powered array that would then allow our 3D printer to print in the most sustainable way possible. We never would have found these ways
Oh,
if it
God,
wasn't
we
for
need-
the challenge of building in space.
3, 2,
9. Is that enough to counter it?
lift off of the Falcon
Now we're gonna
9
need
to the
one.
space station on the first commercial
Resources
launch of
are
Kennedy
low.
Space Center.
Oh. I don't know what to do here. I eat up all my machine parts.
Humans have now been consistently living and working in space for more than 15
I
years.
guess all
If
this
we want to
games.
keep that up, what do habitats need to look like? And frankly, they can be large or they can be small.
Definitely I'm gonna need
Space
more
habitats
of those.
really, to me, comes down to the ability to persistently maintain human presence. Whether that's a few people or many people. That seems to be the dividing line between where we were before and where we want to be.
Comfort is maximally terrible,
benefit
which is
from
the
what we do
whole
on orbit
point.
and bring those natural benefits back home, so we help ourselves out on the ground while we also learn to live somewhere else. And it really, at the very deepest level, is about survival of our species. So I get pretty excited when I spend a few moments thinking about what we're off to go do, because this really is the first step to learning to live off the planet.
No active research.
That first step
Research
is just the start
complete.
of our journey to create a lasting legacy in space. While commercial companies may be stepping in to imagine what these new space habitats look like, it's what's happening inside of them that may unlock the future of space industrialization. On the next episode of Giant Leap, we'll visit the private companies who are looking to build their business around manufacturing in space. Using the unique properties of microgravity, they plan to create new materials with extraordinary qualities that can't be replicated on Earth, including new manufacturing techniques that could change how we build
I guess that makes
structures in
sense,
space.
because, you know, when I
Sectors
was
can unlock the ability to 3D print full
we
human organs.
need machine
But
parts.
before low Earth orbit can become a new industrial center,
And I need to
we're
set
going
up
need
like
to
either
take
a water
another
supply
giant
here or start going to this direction. Take a goddamn while. Do that. I wish I can change the symbol.
Milestone achieved.
Yay, we made food. And metal parts.
Building new things has led to some of humanity's biggest leaps forward. We made tools, forged new materials, and learned to produce them for millions, and then billions. With every new innovation comes new industries, new economies.
Yeah, it will take a long time for that to be beneficial. So instead, I'm just gonna let it go. And let's see.
The industrialization of space
Can't trade yet.
will be one of the great economic
But they would
booms
be
of the
very
century.
useful. Or let's see.
new
Science,
environment to create
corporate
things,
buildings,
things
and the
we can't
harvester
make on
will
Earth.
take a while to get the technology at the
It's
moment.
something that we
Doesn't
all
know.
just take for granted, because
More
it's so
science.
it affects everything. What becomes interesting is what
do I
happens when you
need
take that
technically?
away.
I think I need to work with the Japanese.
Private companies are creating new materials.
Because I don't have the resources to
tools,
give them.
even living
So I guess I'll just fly.
and developing the technology to build entire factories in space.
Yeah.
Successful,
Yeah, more science.
manufacturing could lead to a new gold rush, launching the business of space to its next giant leap.
And I need a depot area. This can be the depot area, technically.
Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, and many other industrialists, they're making big investments to go up there. But there has to be a why. There has to be a reason to go to space.
We want to see a very robust commercial marketplace in space. But the other thing that we have to do is we have to prove. We have to prove the industries that ultimately are going to be able to take advantage of the microgravity environment of space.
Space will open the way to private enterprise.
Since the 1980s, companies have been investigating the unique properties of microgravity, yielding major breakthroughs in the areas of biomedicine and advanced materials research. And now some are looking to start production.
Manufacturing in space has at its core the following idea. This extraordinary environment with a completely different
Electrostatic
set of
dust
environmental
storm
factors
approaching.
than
That's
can
why I
enable
needed
you
the
to
water supply
manufacture
thing.
things that you
I
couldn't
didn't even
manufacture
set up my oxygen production. Shit, they're gonna die.
Has
Completely
historically
forgot about
been
water
a
supply.
value-added economy, right? We take raw
I
materials
completely forgot about my
and we sell
oxygen
that to
thing. Oh my god, what's wrong with me?
finding new ways of making things. It's
What have I
historically
done?
making things
Yeah, we lost.
3, 2,
Too early.
1. Here.
Yeah, I completely forgot about where
July
I
of
forgot about that
2019,
so bad.
SpaceX's CRS-18 launched with over a dozen new research projects, including investigations being conducted by Goodyear and Adidas. Both companies hope that studying their products in microgravity could unlock new opportunities. Also aboard the mission is a biomaterial 3D printer, and with it, the chance to print whole human organs.
Spock BFF on side 4.
Go ahead.
So you were working with DMC to go ahead and get our command info early, correct?
Yes, bandwidth is available.
Okay, so I'm just hunting where the numbers are and making sure they're too hard to stop.
Christina, we should be good to go hands-free now.
It's
Copy
only
the
time
thumbs
for
up.
Just need
We
to
do
set
want to
this up.
start by opening up the cassette kit.
It's just
I fucked
past
up.
3 a.m. The team at TechShot is prepping their initial printing run for the newly arrived
As much
bio
oxygen as possible.
facility, or BFF.
Oh god.
They will buy
No,
coffee
I
and the type of food you might expect to find at 3 a.m. The team is working directly with astronauts aboard the ISS, all from the comfort of TechShot.
I have enough power to
located
support
just
that, I don't.
outside Louisville, Kentucky.
Now we want to double check that the smart pumps are in up position. We're going to be sliding.
People are going to be going out here, and that's going to be a terrible place for
Sector
them.
scanned.
I see.
That looks great.
There are Earth-sick
Oh, stop
colonists.
it. We just start.
Okay, check it out.
Mr. Cos, no shopping area. You bitch. There's shopping here, right?
To traditional 3D printers.
I guess you need luxury.
These smart pumps
Bye. Ah, shit, I don't have any more. Ah, fuck me. Yeah, I won't be able to make it, so we're stuck with the resource we have here.
13,000 people on the organ donation list, and 22 people dying every day because
I hate the fact that I have to eat up more resources.
BFF has that long-term potential to someday maybe be able to provide some hope and a cure for some of those people.
This is John Bellinger, the CEO of TechShot, a company he co-founded over 30 years ago. While his latest project just succeeded in its initial test prints, the BFF has a long way to go before it's printing anything as complex as a human liver or heart.
TechShot is demonstrating the BFF technology with
we
this
got,
current flight,
what is
and
this
we
then?
anticipate being able to print organs and structures
What
might be
company's
5 to
going
10 years
I
out.
am.
Bioprinters have been on Earth for over a decade and can print things
I
like
already
ear
have NASA,
and
right?
nose cartilage that are living
Oh, no.
tissue. But
Let's
for
just fly.
complex systems like organs, the difficulty has been printing the vascular networks within the tissue itself. Without vascular tissue to distribute the needed nutrients, any printed cells would die off well before they could be used. And
Some nations
TechShot believes that gravity is a big part of the challenge.
So let's just say that you want to create something that has one layer of cells, and then on top of that, a different layer of cells, and then on top of that, like a third layer of cells. So one way that you could do that would be to just print one cell in a layer, and then your second layer with another type of cell, and then your third layer with another type of cell. But depending on
Oh
those
god, where's all the...
over a short period
Oh
of
my
time,
god, are you
those cells may not
serious?
stay
All
in
of
those layers.
them?
They may settle out and then end up combining.
Oh my god.
You know, you think of, printing
All of them?
water here on
Seriously?
You just squirt out like kind of a water gun.
Space Force will
And
stay
then
here.
because in a gravity environment, everything just squirt out.
Whoa, that's new.
Spread out. In a microgravity environment,
That's a new design.
so you have a
Oh my god,
wider
of all the
range
people,
materials that you can
how about you?
To combat the
You
effects of gravity on
are
Earth, researchers have used scaffolded
founder,
structures
religious
in order to
composed.
support the growing cells.
Of all the people.
that is accomplished isn't necessarily the best for
Guys are easily
It can limit the types of materials that you can use.
workaholic. Seriously, come on! You guys sucks.
In that environment. In microgravity, you wouldn't necessarily have to do that.
Okay, give me
You
a sec.
could have your
Engineers,
different
at least the
layers,
engineers are
different
okay,
sections,
but I'm gonna have to
different cells, put them next
one
to
of
each
them
other,
here.
and there are no other forces that are going to cause them to mix. So
Oh,
you have
God, this is
opportunity
terrible right now.
to be able to make these small regions in 3 dimensions.
Okay, here comes the
type of
storm.
way and different type of structure that would be very difficult to do on the ground.
Microgravity-enabled bioprinting still has numerous hurdles to cross before it can produce a product for sale. Only now that the printer is operating aboard the ISS can researchers begin to understand the correct materials and process necessary only to print organs.
You're supposed to go here knowing what is gonna happen. You suck. Everyone here sucks. Oh goddamn.
TechShot's business model is to be a tech engine.
And here comes the storm. And I have nothing.
Then if we feel like that
We got accumulator, that's nice. Did I produce enough? Okay, I was able to produce enough oxygen, but hopefully... Alright, so for now, because we can't really rely on this, I'm gonna have to put pipes. Plug him.
And when those miners needed a more durable fabric, the now iconic blue jeans were born.
The business model of selling pickaxes as opposed to going out and panning for gold really certainly applies to space, and there are many companies at the component level that are providing products and services.
Send one colonist in.
Satellite operators.
They might be hurt.
One of
Your
the
refinery will be
challenges in that
suspended.
business model is
You don't actually need fuel right now.
It's not clear that 3D printing
Oh, I can just use my
is
inventor
any
ability.
kind of a gold rush to space. So in order to stay in
And
business, TechShot needs to have other projects.
Okay, so far good, but the fact that we have terrible Earth-sick people here because they suck, I should just send them away. I wish I could do that. I can't.
The whole experiment was to
You know,
see how
goddamn
the chip
Geneva
memory
code.
develop in space without the presence of gravity. This
Sector
science
scan.
project
Anomaly
evolved
found.
into the
Anomalies.
space shuttle project.
I am the leakage.
Imagine this chicken egg in the back of the
Oh yeah, I forgot to put the plug.
Gravity is causing the yolk to fall to the bottom of the egg. Now the hen has a natural instinct of turning that egg around. So therefore the yolk will go back up to the top and gravity pulls it back down to the bottom. Now what would happen to that egg up in space?
The project was sponsored by Kentucky Fried Chicken, in which there were
I'm gonna put the accumulator here somewhere.
the engineer that I worked with, Mark Dusser,
This is like the spot. I'm gonna do a tiny bit of.
We started in a motel. It was just two
I don't want to
rooms.
ruin the
Eventually
environment,
went into
but
4 rooms of the motel.
because I am my
And then
environment,
as
it's not because it looks
TechShot
cool.
matured and developed and gained more projects and more opportunities, then we decided, you know, we're in this for the long haul, and so we built a world-class research facility here.
Please
that
tell
we're
me.
sitting in.
Required waste rocks. Oh fuck, I forgot about the waste
In
rocks.
that first motel room, TechShot is currently working on 15 active projects, creating
tiny one.
technology for NASA, the military, and major pharmaceutical companies, all with the goal to support researchers in microgravity.
Last year was TechShot's best year in its history. I think that's reflective of the excitement of the new opportunities that are out there for space.
And if they're lucky, one of these projects could yield that catalyst of a space gold rush. But they aren't alone
Should
in
at
this
least have
race.
one.
Another company located in Silicon Valley views making
Okay,
things in space
have to fix him.
as
You never
core to their
know.
mission.
Our rocket can do something, and NASA can't come in here right now. I'll have to wait for it. Wait a minute. Where's my botanist?
This is fiber optic cable.
Are you serious?
It works.
Where's the
because
botanist
fiber
people?
reflects light over and over inside the structure. And even
Where's all my
if you bend
botanists?
it,
Were they the ones who
it
became
comes through
sick?
the other end.
That doesn't make
But
sense.
in this application, it's nothing more than a modern-looking lava lamp. The best fiber optic cable is being
I should
used
have
to
at
transmit
least
data
3
all over
botanists.
the world. In fact, undersea cables carry 99%.
Oh my god, I only bought one botanist. I thought I had 3.
Made from silica.
Are you serious? I thought I bought 3. I only had 1. Why would I do that?
But research done by the USA
Oh god damn it, I was gonna suck.
possible to produce a fiber known as
What's wrong with me? Why would I bring only one botanist? I needed fucking 3.
It needs to be made
Okay.
in microgravity.
Get out of the store. You don't wanna die, dude. I wanna get rid of all this. I wanna get rid of all of this Earth-sick people because they are not helping me.
Select a sector to scan.
Too weak.
That's 10 to 100 times
Too
better
weak to help.
than
Only one guy's literally working on all of this. I don't feel good.
CEO of Made in Space, a company with a mission.
Okay,
to create
what
a
can
new
I do with all the?
industrial
Ah,
footprint
fuck!
in
I wish I
space.
could kick
And
out the
sees
others who
burns
don't.
potentially the first
I
material
do need to
that
keep
can
them
be made in
alive.
Space and sold on Earth.
So this
Because
is
I don't wanna, get bad press, or else, there'll be less.
and then it
There's gonna be
gets
less
inserted into a
people gonna
furnace.
go in.
This gets thinner and thinner, thinner than the width of your own hair, and then you start pulling that. So if everything works out, you get a spool
All the
like
rest
this
of the
from our
metals
earlier test
nearby.
press. Basically, it looks like fishing line.
There's metal down there. Is there
While
any
it is
nearby?
possible to produce Zeeblan on Earth, it's nowhere near the potential of what you can produce
Guess I'll
in
grab this one.
microgravity.
Earth manufactured Zeeblan suffers from too many crystals in the material, and basically what happens is when light or power goes through these crystal domains, they reduce each time, creating a power loss throughout the length of fiber you're going through. Microgravity suppresses these formations, and doing so creates more of a monocrystalline structure, so you have all these domain drops, and you have less of a power drop over that length of fiber. You can go
a little bit.
and trans-Pacific without having repeaters in lines like traditional fiber lines do today.
Dystopian. I wish you can change this to like swim or something.
50 times more bandwidth down the same by using Zeeblan instead of
There's
more to the
technology.
You begin to scratch the surface of the economic potential.
Yeah, we need more. We need
They
better.
estimate that a kilogram of Zeeblan could sell for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Leakage. We need to cut that out. Oh god damn it! I forgot to unplug it. Well. I just need that.
Our colonists are suffocating.
No!
A barrier to doing
So I'm blocking the way. I know
what
what
it
I'm doing.
costs so much money to get to space, do things, and then come back. It can literally cost like tens of thousands of dollars a kilogram to launch, operate, and return.
Storm is almost
and that's
done.
why things like
Hopefully
Zeeblan
we'll
are so attractive, because we can sustainably sell them for tens of thousands of dollars a kilogram.
Meaning at some point, whole factories could be created in space, receiving raw material from the ground and shipping microgravity-enabled Zeeblan back to Earth.
Okay, so this is done, right?
Problem
I
is,
should be able to
it's
put
all
down
still
my keyboard.
theoretical. Made in Space
Yes,
has been
I
working on Zeeblan
Nice.
for over 4 years and has flown
Able to
4
produce
missions
more.
to test their manufacturing techniques with more
The
plans
storm is
in the
all to be
future.
done, so
But
let's
they
start
still
getting
expect to be a
even
few
more.
years
I can't get
away
more people,
from
sadly.
producing a product that could be sold on Earth.
Oh,
let
God.
alone scaling that
Yeah,
to larger
that.
industries.
It's very interesting and a little counterintuitive.
What can I bring? I got nothing. I got nothing to bring right now.
Are the companies that consistently say, "How can I do this on Earth?" There have been many products that started with the vision of actually manufacturing in space and ended up with.
I
a
think I had
discovery
enough
phase
of
in
this.
space
I
and
think I should just
manufacturing.
focus on getting.
That's good news for consumers. That's good
Yeah,
news for the.
we're gonna
end
have
users
this
of those
made
products
now.
because that
I think we have enough.
You don't build your manufacturing
And I'm gonna
plant
start getting
on the
some
most
of that.
expensive real estate you can possibly get a hold of. You build your manufacturing plant where you can manufacture
money.
economically.
For Made in Space, though, discovering the
Hey,
first
time to
product
shut
that
this
can
thing
truly be made
down.
in space is more than just profit and loss.
The work in there. I wish I could get all the metals that was inside this, but I can't, I guess.
Is
Go back.
core to our vision, right? That's the industrialization of space, right there. That's the Netscape moment of low Earth orbit commercialization.
I can turn this
You did
off.
Research and development for Zeeblan.
Till the storm- when the storm is done, I
improving
think we'll do
Zeeblan that we could actually apply terrestrially, like apply in a gravity
Oh
field.
god, there's already a
Excited
rock.
about
There's
that.
already
You know,
meteorites.
for us,
Maybe I can't
we
do
take
this.
the profits from that, plow that back in, and do it more.
Yeah, I can't do this.
And while the company is also
I need at least
investigating
one
other
rocket.
materials like Zeeblan
Oh,
that can
God.
be produced in space, they've already laid the groundwork for a whole new way of thinking about in-space manufacturing. And they call it
Okay, I'm gonna drive without any,
Archon is
without bringing any resources.
one
No, maybe just
of
one of each.
Many steps toward those broader visions.
There you go.
Archon is more of a capability than a thing. The capability can enable
That might be enough. Okay.
anything you can think of in terms of structures in space. You can build large things,
Stop
small things
them.
that are optimized. It doesn't really matter.
Archanaut blends robotic
know.
manufacturing with 3D printing, allowing it to create and assemble products
Eating up the.
in
Oh
space.
god, I didn't even.
Instead of
Oh
flying
god, that's
something like
bad.
a satellite to
I didn't
space,
add
you could
anything
create
here
them
to
there.
cut off the. Oh
Made in
god,
Space
why would I
can
do
use
that?
Archanaut as an in-space
I
factory.
completely forgot to put.
It
Oh
needs to turn
god.
its vision into a sustainable business.
There is no
I
shortage
prioritize,
in
please.
space
I need to put a
of
valve here next time. Don't die, I swear. Hurry up! Hurry up! Running out of oxygen.
Sector scanned.
visionaries
It's on.
that attach their vision to an incremental pathway.
What's not
we've
gonna
been
do
very
a lot?
fortunate to work closely
Or
with
half.
NASA for a number of years in developing gravity-independent manufacturing technologies.
Our
And the first one of
leakage,
those
we'll just have to
technologies
cut
really
off
was
said power.
International Space Station has
Ow, there's power over here. What? No power. There's power over here. What's wrong with you? It's not connected. It's not connected. Are you serious? Is it not connected? It's right beside it though. Oh, for fuck's sake. Why? This makes no sense. What? That makes no sense. It's right over there. Why? Is that even a thing to worry about?
To date, Made in Space has created
Oh
over
god,
200
I need more
objects aboard
rockets.
the ISS. And with its second printer, named the Additive Manufacturing Facility,
This is done.
they were able to not only prove their technology...
Oh, now oh, are you serious? Then the lightning strikes it. Seriously?
With them where we actually
You're
retained
right.
ownership of the device and actually operated as a service.
We need more
And
rockets.
we printed parts for NASA, for other individuals, for companies, for schools. So really starting to build almost this machine shop in space kind of business model. The approach that we've taken at Made in Space has been to have these really inspiring.
We got this one rocket back at home so I can get passengers if I get a chance.
Digestible chunks.
Okay, storm is done. I can land this thing. Well, I can set up like a landing spot
And the
first.
first incremental step for Archanaut is to change how we think about manufacturing satellites.
Argonaut 1 project is a free-flying satellite which will manufacture 10-meter booms, and those 10-meter booms will have solar arrays on them which allow a small sat to manufacture on the order of about a kilowatt.
The Archanaut 1 mission will launch in 2022. It's part of a public-private partnership with NASA, and the project aims to reduce the cost of putting satellites into orbit. While satellites have been getting smaller, if you need a satellite that will require lots of power, you'll most likely need a massive solar array. But large arrays are difficult to fit into rocket payloads, the so-called tyranny of the fairing, and it gets expensive. One way around this problem is to spend
Colonists
heavily on
are departing.
Yeah, here, we don't like you.
folding arrays into compact
I suck.
configurations. Then deploy at their full size once in space. But all that work and extra
Building a new
weight
home
on
on an
rocket
alien
That's
tens,
just weird.
if not hundreds
No,
of
the
millions of
tornado,
dollars
the dust
for launch
tornadoes and
cost.
shit.
Archanaut gives satellite makers a new option. Include a 3D printer and robotic arm onto their existing satellites, and let Archanaut build their very large solar arrays.
I think the game
in
crashed.
space. This could reduce the cost of getting
Shit, I think
power-hungry
I've crashed.
satellites
Ah,
into
god damn it, I
orbit,
crashed the game.
potentially open up whole
That's the
new
first time I've seen that
industries
happen,
to
huh?
space.
Probably the
That's the
most
first time I
significant
crashed the
factor
game.
for the financial success
I think
of
the
the
rockets
space
couldn't
station
tell when I was
space-related
changing
business
the rocket because I got a new rocket design.
more
And that rocket design for some reason crashed it. I don't know why it does that. Hopefully it won't be. Hopefully it's just a one-time thing. If not, then that sucks. I'm stuck with just a few designs then. I can't have all the multiple designs I'm used to.
Answer to finding scale in production.
A successful strategy for manufacturing in space is to demonstrate capabilities and to have adaptable capabilities that can serve different customers.
When you combine that robotic assembly and additive manufacturing, it really opens the door for customization for clients.
Still waiting. We're gonna go standby mode for
Because of
that.
my mission, I need a big antenna, or I need a large radiator. Archanaut, because it's general, means that I can provide those services
Why is it taking so
quickly
long?
and at low cost. So we hope that folks see what we're doing and are inspired by it and say, hey, this is what I need. So yeah, it'd be great if somebody came to us and said, this is the thing that we want to make. And we're like, oh my gosh, that's the killer app.
The hope for Archanaut, just like with Zeblan and organ printing, is that one of these
Oh my god,
businesses
I think.
can be that
Okay.
spark.
I'm gonna
for
turn
space
off Steam
industrialization.
entirely.
I think once people see the potential of microgravity, I think a lot more people, a lot more commercial entities
maybe now it's
will get
fixed.
involved in space research.
I get
because
more
think
coffee.
It is such a unique environment. That
Strategic way.
different way of thinking leads to innovation. And so I think you see so much excitement and so much interest because the potential to come up with new products,
Please,
new innovations
just turn on.
is real.
Okay, now I think it's starting on.
The
That's
ability
good.
to manufacture in space means that we kind of break the tyranny of the launch variant, right? And we can now make structures that are really enormous, like big structures that are on the size and scale of things that we're comfortable with and we interact with on Earth, you know, on a consistent basis, you know, like larger buildings, multi-story buildings. Nothing like that exists in space, but we need to be able to make structures and spacecraft and habitats that are that size if we are really
I have two options.
Sustainably move into space.
I can only put computer science, or to change the design to default
colonists.
and then get rid of it.
Resources are low. Sector scanned.
Alright, let's just test this out. Let's see if it crashes again. I just need to see this. This is the last option. It doesn't crash. Wait a minute. If it's not the rocket, then what caused it to crash? Don't tell me something else is causing it. Okay, so something is going on here, and I don't know what it is. Hopefully it's not gonna be a big deal. Because if it is not the rocket that caused the crash, that's bad news for me. Because that means something else is causing the crash, and I have no idea what it is.
Iron, gold, copper. Minerals are the lifeblood of the world's economy. From the Arctic Circle to the Sahara Desert, the $1.7 trillion mining industry supplies raw materials needed for everything, from skyscrapers to smartphones. But mining also comes with an increasingly critical environmental cost, one that may require us to think about off-planet solutions before it's too late. Asteroids, moons, and planets in our own solar system hold an essentially unlimited supply of untapped resources.
The first trillionaires will be those who mine asteroids.
Resources like gold, platinum, and rare earth metals.
Colonists are departing.
Incredibly high priced, but the most valuable element may be our most basic one.
What you want to mine in space is what you need a lot of.
And while humans have been mining for thousands of years,
let's
mining in
change
space requires new,
to
innovative technologies
SpaceX.
to realize any potential business
Building a new home.
opportunities. Such technologies might just allow humanity to expand operations of Earth.
Please don't crash. I need this, please. I don't know what's causing it. So I'm just gonna assume it's just me changing the design. Hopefully that's just the
Meteor shower incoming.
And I wasn't able to counter the meteorites, and now I have to deal with them. Great. That sucks.
Are investigating their composition, location, and even possible payoffs to mine them. This one, known as Bennu, has an estimated value of $600
I have to turn off some of it.
Ryugu, $82
Sector
billion.
scanned. Anomaly
Better
found.
yet, an asteroid called Davida, which is valued at more than $100 trillion. And the reason for these high price tags? They're made up of valuable metals like platinum, gold, and iron.
We believe that asteroids have platinum group metals, rare earth metals in higher percentages than you might find on the moon, for instance.
Only once in human history has an asteroid.
Yeah, I think it was just the rockets. I guess when changing it caused to
Japan
crash.
Aerospace Exploration Agencies
Oh,
made
it
this
is.
mission in 2010.
How many people did we lose?
And even then,
We currently have
return
11, so
samples
we just
merely
have
dust
lost one.
particles.
That's weird.
And the total cost of that mission?
I think people got
approximately
over. I got over it. I think that's what happened.
One problem is that
I have two
compared to the
buttons for
moon,
some reason. So
there's very little gravity.
I guess because yeah, that person was considered Earth sick, but not anymore.
On the moon, the gravity will hold your processing.
I need to.
So
Hey, you guys are not working.
the general answer to the question, can we bring?
This is currently turned off for now, for the sake
general answer is no.
working. We need food though, so I'm gonna have to move some of you out.
From space to Earth only makes sense if what is retrieved is so extraordinarily valuable and
Neil,
just
that's
not
because
available on
you're not
Earth.
working there.
Anomaly
Returning the
analyzed.
most valuable asteroids could drastically devalue those materials.
Okay, you
Take
have to
asteroid
go
16 Psyche,
here.
for instance. NASA is constructing
And
a probe to
you
launch in
can have
2022 to study the
have
potato-shaped
to lock
object,
this to prevent
which
it
is
from.
roughly 95% metals. Iron, platinum,
It's a team effort. Get used to it.
estimates value the asteroid at $700 quintillion. years.
There's more to
science.
NASA says it may be the inner core of
We
its
can improve the
planet
comfort right now.
that's
So
somehow lost its outer layers, offering incredible insight.
that's the last of my money. I'm gonna have to save it. You never know when
If
I'm.
someone did manage to bring large amounts of this
Till I can
asteroid
start
back to
getting
Earth,
effectiveness. Yeah, I
prices
have to
would
get
skyrocket.
effective in getting my, you know,
More of the
money
material than we would have use
done.
for, causing the
Not gonna
price
risk
to
it.
crash to almost
I
zero.
also need to start setting up trade
Once we
routes.
erode
So
the rarity of a high-value metal or mineral,
I'm gonna
the
put
value of
some
that
gas.
terrestrially
I'm
could
gonna put the
drop
gas over here. Just spread them out.
Experts agree that a more likely scenario is materials
So in
mined
case one of them gets
space
hit,
will
I still
stay in
have
space,
gas.
jump-starting
That's
a
what I
whole new
need.
money-making industry.
any spacefaring nation will have looked at what's called in situ resource utilization, which is a very common space term, meaning you use the resources where you are. So taking that model of
Let's improve
if you
our
need it in space, mine it
water
in space, what would you
consumption.
be mining?
I'm losing power.
Mostly you
Why
need
is
to-
that? I guess it's because people are working in the day and I'm not producing enough power anymore. So I may have to set up.
Space that's abundant on Earth.
Do I have enough to produce? No, I don't have
Water.
that.
Not only can water sustain human
I'm gonna put a
life
tiny
for
one
future
this
manned
time,
space missions,
so I can save my
liquid
resources
water,
because I don't have enough.
hydrogen, can also be separated
Survive.
and reassembled to make fuel. This zero-emission fuel, called hydrogen fuel, is the same used in spacecraft propulsion and fuel cell vehicles. Hydrogen fuel research in this new space race could also spur new technologies that can help fight climate change.
Hopefully that'll be
and
enough.
the elimination of fossil fuel use on Earth.
At least we're producing food again. That's good news. Need more food though.
Immediate business opportunity for
Change this into a
risk-taking
trade
companies
route. I
wishing
currently
to
have a
make
lot of
fortune.
concrete, so maybe I can trade with that.
2018 paper by industry,
Meanwhile,
government,
I
and
need
academic experts,
to.
they
Oh
estimated
shit!
that
I
the
have
initial
other
$4
missions I need to
billion
do.
investment in a new
Okay.
water mining operation,
First, we need
which is about the
to
cost of a
either get
luxury hotel in
resources
Las Vegas, about $2.4
or
billion in revenue could be generated annually.
breakthrough.
Business
Need
case
that.
101 for
NASA
mining
is
in
gonna
space
be
is,
no
if you're gonna
SpaceX. Oh
launch
shit!
something from
What do I
Earth, it's gonna
send to
cost
do
you
that?
about
NASA can do. SpaceX can do. I think I'm gonna have NASA do this. So breakthrough.
in space, and you can produce it for
I
less
only
than
have 6 people left in the area, just doing my own business. Stop posting whatever that is was as your thumbnail. What? More thumbnails like this? Okay, then I'll do it. Thank you very much for giving me your feedback. I'm such a jerk.
produce that water. Now have
Here,
a customer.
please. I just need someone to trade with.
2016, the ULA
Probably I don't need friends. I need to start. I need to. Okay, colony. I think these guys can be a good partner. And give me lots of money, so I'm gonna give them concrete for free. Please.
Most experts believe
SpaceX
the
will
moon is
give
the
you the
best
trade.
starting point for this.
Please trade with
It
me.
has more
Let's be
gravity
friends.
than an asteroid, making
I
it
need
easier to land,
trade
and it's
partners so I can actually get
powerful
shit
vast
done.
amounts of water ice. That potential volume of water has made it the focus
Need
of
another
NASA's
rock?
Artemis
No.
program,
Oh,
which
shit. Do I
aims
need
to
more
land
rockets?
astronauts on the moon's southern pole, and also make the space agency a
Ah,
critical
fuck.
place
The fact that I
for
don't have
any
enough
water
resources is
harvested
really
on the
bad.
China, India, Israel.
This ain't Corn Hub, god damn it. What?
Everyone is now sort of focusing on the moon.
Anyways, this is a very depressing. This is a very depressing, like, you know, this is a very depressing,
A fueling station on the moon
working place, but that's kind of the point. Like, I don't wanna, this time I wanna make my game harder on purpose, just to make it more interesting. And right now I'm having a hard time trying to survive.
This would provide the first
Struck, what did I gain?
government
Well,
agencies
can
with
construct
water for human
themselves.
consumption
That's
and
useful, I
fuel
guess.
for spacecraft. Water-derived fuel could
And
also
they can
be
repair
harvested
themselves,
on
which is
asteroids.
useful.
Vehicles or propellant transports then carry the fuel from the
We have
surface
enough of
to
everything,
stable
so
storage
we don't
point
need any
on
at the moment. But as soon as I get more people, I'm gonna need
stations can
more
also
people.
be set up in low Earth orbit, making it accessible
Trade
to
for
satellites
food.
and other
Give you
spacecraft.
food.
As of now,
I think they
satellites
need food, right?
are decommissioned. Extra fuel would allow them to stay in their orbits. increasing
Exercise, you
their
bastard.
lifespan. Since
Hey,
using
we're back
rocket
here.
to get fuel out of Earth's atmosphere is expensive, refueling in low Earth orbit can greatly improve the size, type, and cost of missions
I'm waiting
in
for
space.
3 more souls before I
Commercial
can.
launch industry like SpaceX
People.
will also benefit from these fuel depots. The use of lunar-based propellant and commodities may also provide a
Okay.
stepping stone for interplanetary exploration. But while there has been a renewed interest in
Wonder
the moon,
if I need to
it
do
hasn't been
another
easy.
mission
In
point.
just 2019, missions to the moon's surface
Let's see.
by both
I need
India
more
and
rockets. I
Israel
definitely
resulted in
need more
failures.
rockets. So here's what I'm
And
gonna
the
do.
technology
So I'm
to
gonna
mine and
grab
extract these potential water reserves on the moon and beyond is still unproven.
more food,
But
maybe.
some entrepreneurs
As an
are still
emergency.
optimistic.
I will have more food.
The answer is yes. The technology exists.
And just
We
save
can
one
put
rocket
something
for
together,
now.
We can send something to the moon that can mine water.
What
So
can you
we are sort of like
so.
trailblazers, trying to figure out what's going on the moon.
And
what's below
send.
the surface.
For now, we're not gonna send humans.
Using
Instead, we're gonna
robotics.
send.
They've designed drills used in
We're gonna send
NASA's
robots
past Mars
for now.
missions and have sampling and mining systems going on
Because
future
I
crewed
want the
missions
people
the
to,
moon,
relax
Saturn's moon
first,
Titan,
and then I can
Mars'
worry
moon
about.
Phobos, and Jupiter's moon Europa.
We've been
No, I
focusing
didn't
on
mean to
developing
do people. Fuck me, I'm an idiot.
from literally iPhone size all the way to the size that
I didn't mean to
this vacuum chamber.
Son of a bitch, I didn't mean to use
And that's
people.
why NASA has long relied on their expertise.
Oh my god.
Unlike your everyday drill from the hardware store, their drills overcome the numerous limitations of space.
Oh my
which
god, I need more
include
power
extreme
because
temperatures and low
soon I'm
gravity.
gonna need power. I'm gonna need power badly. And I don't have money. I need power so bad. As soon as the ice comes in, I won't be able to do much at that point.
And
I'm
drilling
gonna be
is unforgiving.
stuck with that.
If you get stuck, if something goes wrong, there is no second chance.
The difficulty in drilling would delay placement of the second probe until the next day.
One of their innovative ideas, called PlanetVac, uses compressed gas to shoot material into a sample container. Its ergonomic design allows it to be inside the foot of a lander, and was chosen to go with NASA-funded payloads to the
Need more
moon and Mars moon
There's
Phobos.
the deposits. That's a lot.
For mining and extracting water on the
That's gonna be a
moon,
lot.
they created the Planetary Volatiles Extractor,
Yeah.
or PVEX, and it not only drills, it mines.
Okay, we
It's
can
based
get
off a
that
drill
so we
that
can
removes
start
a cylinder of material called a coring drill.
getting the AI, get more science.
Anomaly
With
analyzed.
heaters on the inside. So you drill down to required depth, you heat up the material that's
Set
on the
this up now.
inside of the coring drill. And ice turns into vapor, and vapor moves
Sector
up the coring
scanned.
drill into the cold finger.
Yeah.
So you're capturing water vapor like, for example, in the
Ultra,
freezer when you
yeah.
have condensation. PVEX is a mining system.
I'm
It
literally
can
getting
actually
the
get
most minimum amount
into the
of
soil.
trade I can
It actually
think of, and I'm not
extract
getting anything.
water. You can actually capture this water in a separate container. We
just
have all
put
the
this
in.
pieces
Anomaly
Yeah, I
analyzed.
and we can go to the moon, Mars, and mine it.
When it's tested on the moon, which may happen in the next couple of years,
No, no,
PVEX
no, no,
will be
there
the
we
first
go.
end-to-end mining
Bam.
system deployed in space.
Nice.
And they have even more futuristic ambitions.
Okay, I think I
to use the
need.
PVEX drill,
Wait, is someone going back to?
like this one, that not only
Where's the
extracts
other
and stores
rocket?
water,
I could
but
have sworn
uses
I
it to
had
power itself, like a
1,
flying
2,
kettle.
3. Where's the other rocket?
It stands for the world is not enough. It's a James Bond stuff. It's very futuristic.
Oh yeah, they're capturing. I only had 4 rockets. Could have sworn I have.
The main
The other
idea
one.
is to send hundreds of low-cost flying spacecrafts all over the solar system.
AI
to give a
Factory,
clear atlas of
NASA,
asteroids that have water
Space Force,
resources.
SpaceX. Ah, okay.
Honeybee
I
Robotics
see
is
now.
one of the many startups
So yes,
that
that's
NASA
the
is
other
depending on
rocket.
to develop new innovative
I'm gonna
ideas.
need to get
There is a
generators,
strong
and
private
it's not gonna be enough money.
partnership with NASA right now.
Right now, I'm betting on the. I'm hoping that I'll gain good relation with them, but I need to trade more.
Like instruments, like rovers, and also humans.
I don't need the power, so if this has. I have to do
Very,
this.
very exciting times.
I need 1 generator. It's not gonna be
By
enough.
giving out multiple
It's better
contracts,
than nothing.
NASA reduces the cost for
Also, why is
themselves
Mars
and
one the
the
one
entire
over there?
industry.
We want to have numerous
Milestone
providers that are
achieved.
competing against
Yay.
each other on cost and innovation, driving down the cost and increasing access to space and industrializing.
Hey. We need to make the first baby, and right now we're not producing any of that
With a new infusion of
because
$10
everyone
million
here is
from NASA,
living a
has
terrible
teamed up
time.
with other space startups and
This is not gonna
educational
produce any babies
institutions
at all.
to
We need a
process
separate
for
place.
harvesting and utilizing water from asteroids.
I think it's time for me to make a
without
house
even touching them.
here.
Optical mining is our patent-pending process for using highly
Dedicated for
concentrated
just baby
sunlight
making.
or light from
But the
another
thing is, it's
source
not gonna
to
enough
excavate the
anything.
surface without having to use digging tools to dig into it. And this is very important in space.
Okay, we're
especially
gonna
for
have to
astronauts.
make babies now, so
This technology,
I'm gonna
they teamed
only
up
a
with the
few
Colorado
people who
School
are
of
sexy and all
Mines.
that stuff.
It's known
Gonna
as
get
the
lucky.
optical mining testbed. First, they put the simulated
So
asteroid
we're
in a
gonna
vacuum chamber to recreate the conditions of
make.
space.
This is gonna take a while. We don't have technology for that yet.
To cool the surface inside
Only a few people, only
cryotrap.
a handful
Then
of people
they turn on a
able to
giant
live.
light bulb, which imitates
This is gonna make
sunlight
everyone
that they
jealous,
then
but
concentrate into a beam,
can at
resulting in
least
very
get
high
babies.
temperatures.
And I need
The beam
flash.
lights
I'm gonna save
hits
the game
asteroid
quickly.
target, fractures
Save the
sample,
game before the
and
game
then water
crashes.
and other materials are released and frozen onto the
Save.
cryotrap.
Save.
The volatile materials, which include water, methane, carbon dioxide, other valuable materials that are common and
I need
cheap
more coffee.
underground, but very
Okay,
valuable in space.
time to change the sign. Hopefully I don't break it.
That's pretty nice.
That's why I saved the game right away.
The same way that we would
Don't break the
track
game.
those chemicals in space for a real asteroid mining mission.
We're gonna have that design, I guess.
Optical mining
They got
bypasses
food, they got
daunting
nothing,
tasks
so I can
trying
send
to
NASA
design an
and do
object
something with this.
such low gravity that it could simply break apart when touched, and there's no drill to potentially get stuck. But for this
I'll have the
to work,
autosave
they're
do that.
targeting small
So,
asteroids the size of a beach
NASA,
ball for their tech demonstrator model, with plans to accommodate rocks
go do
the
some
size
robot
of a
missions,
cubic
I
tennis
think.
court and bigger
Yeah, let's have a
in
robot.
future models.
We think the right thing to
And
do
I can
is to
send Space
rendezvous
Force
with the
down.
asteroid, match rotation with it,
Okay, that increased a little bit of
film
the
back
Sector scanned.
comfort
back
of
down,
people.
and then de-spin the asteroid. And now you have the
I love the fact that I now have different designs.
work with it rapidly.
It's good.
Transastra believes
Still
that
can't produce any
harvesting water
polymer,
from
but that's
asteroids
alright.
not only makes
Working
space
on it.
travel more affordable for private industry, but it will make
I need a
NASA's proposed
food app.
missions
I need
to
a
take
food
astronauts to the moon,
depot.
Mars, and even asteroids possible, within a budget that the US Congress may be
Food.
willing to provide.
And we can cut out hundreds of billions of dollars and actually make it possible
And
for NASA
have to
to
make
do
that
all those
out
exciting
by
missions
30.
in a period of just 20 years or so by harnessing the asteroids. Now what's really cool about it is
And
that
we have
by
all
using
30, then we'll start producing more.
Anomaly
companies like
analyzed.
TransAstra,
Yeah, at least more.
the infrastructure for space resource harvesting and commercial transport
Okay, we
in
got some
space
cool
can be
resource.
developed.
Nice.
So by NASA
Unlimited.
doing it this way,
Gambling
NASA
the
becomes
Mrs.
the
Stars.
first user
are
of these
all
resources.
gamblers coming.
I love
This
gambling.
infrastructure for its exploration mission.
SpaceX
And that
can actually do
infrastructure is
something,
left
so
behind
maybe I'm gonna send
for
SpaceX out.
industry. And that can create massive industries in space.
Well, I can do trade.
Like it even becomes cost effective to build a space hotel.
Sources.
Transastra and partner Momentus will be on a 2-year
I'm gonna have
contract
to
with
do
NASA to build
skies
that
first,
asteroid
so.
mining and in-space transportation prototype called Mini-B to
I'm
provide
doing
optical
well right
mining in
now.
space.
That's nice.
We live in a very
Nice, nice.
exciting time where we're going to be able to take that to space.
As soon as we start getting
Resources
30, I'm gonna
space are
maximize that.
literally unlimited.
Because this thing has something to do.
Unlimited resources are what some universities are betting on. At the
It's alright, I wanna eat it.
Mines, where Transastra does its optical mining research, they now offer a graduate
Hey, so we
degree
got
in
some
space
people.
resources.
Our space resources program is the first of its kind in the world.
It's,
There is anticipated
might actually sell that
growing
instead.
number
Oh, okay, it's time for me to start selling some resources. I need this. I need this so bad.
the skills and practices of space resources
And a huge benefit to space mining
So
research
NASA
is
can
that a
sell
lot
it
of
or
this
AI
technology
space
can
map.
be beneficial
I'm gonna have
for
NASA
Earth.
sell it.
Like their 3D printer that uses materials on the moon or Mars to make structures, and is modelled after startup Icon's 3D
We're gonna
printer
cut
is
that.
used to make homes on Earth.
I don't need 4.
Their penetrometer is a tool on the end of a robotic arm that's being developed to take measurements on the moon, but has applications for mining companies, and even a rover in a lunar testbed that can
The
drill
more
and
meteorites I
prospect
need to stop.
resources has its
not at the
benefits.
There are places on Earth where mining companies and equipment manufacturers are looking at applying smart robotics
That's Mars one
in
back.
terrestrial lines. They can go into places that are not safe for
If it just fly.
Um,
Oh, I can just sell all 40? That is weird. That's cool. Oh, I just got a lot of money.
Is doing just that, and hopes hopes to
This proves
leverage
that
their expertise
Mars
in robotic
is profitable.
systems for mining remote, inhospitable
Shit.
locations that are almost
Oh god, I got a
Mars-like.
bunch of money. How did I get that?
Recently, the
Space Factory
Administrator
can
of
out.
NASA, when the head of the Australian Space Agency visited,
That's the only mission left.
was saying
Handful of
the
people.
US is looking to Australia to be doing development in this area of extracting resources in space. One of the reasons why we in Australia
Very micromanagement, right? That's okay.
because of the strength of our mining industry, the strength of our mining
Okay, let's see if those people.
we see it as a way that Australia can
They're
establish a
good.
niche space capability.
Australia's high wages have caused some of the largest mining operations in the world to seek
This guy.
savings by using automation. Rio Tinto, the world's second largest mining company, has fitted operations in Australia
this is entirely
with
empty.
autonomous trucks,
One
drills,
person
and
working.
even the first driverless freight train network.
I love that I actually made a
Adopting these
path here
technologies
by
will be
accident.
useful
That
for
actually
space
works.
programs, and the use of space technology in mines,
I actually
such
made
as
a.
robotics, would be useful on
Let's
Earth.
get. Aw.
The Australian
I can.
Centre for Space Engineering Research at the University of New South Wales in Sydney was founded in 2010 and has 15 PhD current or graduated students researching space resource ventures related to Australia's needs and expertise.
What we are trying to do at the moment
Look at this
is
nice
reduce
pathway.
the risk perceived by a large company, a mining company for instance, when they approach this type of venture. I think one of
This
the
will
main
go
reasons
down in history.
that terrestrial mining companies should be looking at this problem.
I have access
is
to
that
more
they will benefit their
this one.
terrestrial operations. by
We're now
looking
gonna
at
leave
this.
them alone. I'm
So
being
if
here.
they look at the way that you need to
We're gonna
operate
have
on the
to
moon,
start
that
building
will help their terrestrial
get
operations.
science, but that's
If
gonna
you look
take
at
a
the way you
while.
analyze
Need to
risk
automate the
for this type of mine, they must learn new lessons, which should hopefully flow back to their risk analysis for terrestrial mines.
Although mining companies have terrestrial mining expertise and monetary advantages, only time will tell who will be the first to provide a fueling
Anomaly
station in space.
analyzed.
In terms
How do
of
we
making
get
it
there
happen,
safely? That's the question.
I actually don't think it'll be a startup. I don't think it'll be a
Okay,
startup business.
so
I don't think it'll be a mining
need
company,
this dome
but I think it will be a
over
big
here,
company
but we're not
Sector
gonna have
scan.
water. There's no water.
Anomaly
in-
by a
found.
high net worth individual.
I think the next step is gonna
Companies
have
like
to set up
Blue
a.
Origin, SpaceX,
I have a job.
something like that.
This
Not
guy.
necessarily
So
them, but something like
need to start scanning this area.
Proving that this kind of mining is feasible could trigger an influx of profit-minded
Tools.
companies migrating off the
As you can
Earth.
put it up.
Just one industry that would stake a claim on the vast wealth of space. Not only is the universe a place for exploration, for private companies it's a new resource.
Here.
The key which will unlock new possibilities in
Metal
technology.
and I think I might be able to
Funding
just send
received.
one
Working both at home
rocket to
and
do
beyond
that.
Earth. And all of this will be
Or I
the
can just have a
result of our
transporter
next
transport
giant
that air.
leap.
I'll do a transport actually. So this is done. Stuff go. Mars one, SpaceX can sell. SpaceX will sell. Real nice here. So I'm gonna put this down. Yeah, there. Nice. Oh my son. Is that all?
We have a liftoff. It's interesting to talk about really where is there money to be made in space.
This is not the internet where you build up
Yeah,
a
that's
huge
all the
user base and then you figure out
anomalies,
how to monetize them later.
Yeah,
There's a
Monster Slayer.
subset of
Push
the
game.
community, not named SpaceX, not named
I just start
Blue
trading
Origin,
again.
and
So
this is like March Madness. It's one and done. I got one shot to get to the end, or else I'm either gonna fail, run out of
with
money,
Japan.
or be gobbled up by someone else.
Can't trade at the moment.
There are a lot easier
I
ways
can't
to
trade
make
with
money
other
than building a
colonies
rocket
then,
company.
so maybe Japan.
Look, it is painfully hard. It doesn't matter.
I can
whether
get
it's
this
a
guy so I
rocket
can get
or
the
a-
technology
doubling
I don't
production
have.
is just a really tough thing to do.
Startups are super tough and
They will
incredibly
give
tough in
me a
this
good.
industry.
They will
So
give me
unfortunately, I think a lot
the
of those
generator will
companies
help me
are going to fail.
survive. That's one thing.
I think space is the final frontier.
But that's gonna
I
take a
think
lot
you
of
see
resources,
much
so I'm gonna go for
excitement, so
Japan
much interest
first.
because the
I'll
potential
give you
is real.
concrete.
Once
That's
you
all I can
have
give
that
right
cheap
now.
access to space, now you have
First one.
entirely new business
First one will
models
be
that
in
close
charge.
that didn't
Oh, wait a
before.
minute.
The way that people have made money
I'm gonna have to say
commercially
the
in
game again.
space has been like just bouncing signals off the
I know what
satellites.
to say. I already-
And so
I already said that.
industrialization of space is like a
Okay,
new
so-
sector for space.
Please don't clash.
The real thing we want is not just to make something profitable in space, but to make being in space profitable for
This
everyone.
one is to have a very simple design. How does this no. Yeah, we'll have this design instead. As you guys like this, you know, as soon as you drop, that's the first thing you'll see, bridge to Mars, and then the statue represents welcome to Mars. You know? Like a tiny design, right?
The space race isn't just global superpowers duking it out for bragging rights and technological supremacy anymore. Private companies, lots of them, are rushing to commercialize not just the final frontier, but the act of getting there.
I'm a sports
Set
guy.
up
This is like
a generator
March
now.
Madness to me. It's one and done. I got one shot to get to the
I'm
end.
producing babies, I
or
know.
else I'm either gonna fail, run out of money, or be gobbled up by someone else.
At least
Whoever
they're
figures out how to make launch safe, affordable, and convenient is going to take the next giant leap.
gonna
Funding
trade-
received.
can trade with. Yeah, 5 more minutes. Signs somewhere. Signs out.
We choose to go to the
And
and
though,
do the other things, not because
very quickly
they are
before you
easy,
die.
but because they
And
are
then,
hard.
60 years into the
it's gonna
space
suck
race,
if
the way we
the
leave
main
Earth
guy.
has changed remarkably.
Run. No. Are you still preparing? Oh no, I think too late. Oh no.
Sector scan.
Oh god damn it. I gave up.
Opening space up to commerce and experimentation and development. Why?
So I can't go there yet, it's too dangerous.
25 years after Ronald Reagan signed the Commercial Space Launch Act, the
I'm
desert
gonna get more
has
coffee, by
begun
the way.
blooming.
I think if you were a young person in
As you can see, he
1969,
was
you saw
headed
people
there,
walking on
but
the
I
moon,
can't do it anymore.
and
So for
50
now, we're
years
gonna
later,
turn
we
back
still
for now.
haven't
It's
gone
too
back.
dangerous.
I think that's a little disappointing. I think they took that, their hopes and dreams of their youth
back
and
once.
are applying
It's
it
too
to today's
dangerous.
marketplace. And I think they're having a fantastic success.
In the world
Yeah, I
of
wanted
rocket
to-
launch, there are two very distinct races going on. The first are the large rocket companies like SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, and Blue Origin.
Jeff Bezos has reportedly invested billions already in Blue Origin and will invest billions more.
Okay, so I'm gonna standby mode for now.
SpaceX has also raised billions of dollars and acquired very large contracts from NASA as well in order to fund both development and operations of its vehicles.
Liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket.
But they aren't the only players in the game. There's a heated race picking up between small and medium launch companies.
There's a subset of the community, not named SpaceX, not named Blue Origin, trying to figure out, okay, how can we get there fast?
Companies like Rocket Lab, Relativity, Firefly, and Virgin Orbit. Right now, there are more than 100 small launch companies competing not just to get to space, but to see who can get there most reliably, cheapest, and then repeat it over and over and over again. And ideally, end up with their business in the black. Because entire new industries rely on these launch companies getting payloads into orbit. And any missteps can spell disaster, not just for a rocket, but an entire company.
There is a $200+ billion
Funding
commercial
received.
space industry right now today. There are a couple of huge markets that have been very profitable.
The most profitable is the satellite industry, In 2018, the global space economy was estimated to be around $360 billion. $277 billion of that is the satellite industry, which has actually grown over $100 billion over the past decade. And for those satellites to get to space, they need to be launched on a rocket. Global launches in 2018 increased by 46% over the number of launches a decade ago. In many respects, it's never been easier to put a satellite into space in terms of the cost and the availability of rockets to ride into orbit. And a new era of smaller, cheaper satellite technology is creating this boom. Once a year, out in a desert of northern Utah, the Small Satellite or SmallSat Conference comes to Logan. It has all the trademark features of an industry trade show, bright lanyards, tons of swag, but the deals happening here are carving out what the future of the space economy will look like.
I've been coming to this conference for 20 years and seeing it grow from 300 people to over 3,000. So it is exciting to see that transition as we move into the next phase.
Traditional satellites are often powerful behemoths, the size of school buses, costing hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to build. Today, the proliferation of small sats, CubeSats, even nanosats can cost as little as $10,000 and can be built with similar hardware that goes into your cell phone.
They range from the size of a Rubik's Cube up to about the size of a dorm room refrigerator. And so that's a big difference. And so some of these launch ventures want to launch a few dorm-size refrigerators and others want to launch dozens of CubeSats. And so they're trying to divide the market that way.
Those satellites are providing imaging of the Earth. They're potentially providing telecommunications services, and they're attracting quite a lot of investment, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars.
The Earth's insatiable need for communications and internet is really what's driving this huge number of satellites that are going into orbit in the next 5 to 7 years. There's going to be thousands, if not tens of thousands of new satellites in orbit in the next 5 to 7 years.
The question is, are they able to actually provide business services that will be successful?
The idea is that entirely new business models as well as revenue streams will be propped up by the data these small sats collect. The imaging and data collected from these small sats will be used by everyone, from hedge funds to telecom giants to the US government.
Just think of how much the photos you can get with your Android or iPhone have improved from the first generation to the current generation. Similar things happening in small sats.
Market research says small sat manufacturing will nearly double by 2020, with nearly 8,000 new small sats in space by 2026.
The issue was always small satellites have a lot of capability, but there's not a good, affordable way to get them into orbit.
And that's where the small launch companies see a promising business.
The fact that a small launch vehicle is much cheaper in toto than a large launch vehicle, on the order of $5 or $10 million as opposed to $50 to $100 million.
Meteor incoming.
There are more customers.
Say you have a small sat that you want to launch into orbit. Think of the big companies like SpaceX as a bus, and the small and medium launch companies like Rocket Lab as a taxi. With large launchers, you're at the back of the bus, after the needs of what's called the primary, which is the main payload on the rocket, like a big government satellite. Your small sat is just piggybacking off that primary, since they bought the majority of the rocket. With small launchers like Rocket Lab, you and your small sat can dictate more of your terms on when and how you'll fly, and you'll pay for the whole ride. So booking a taxi for a small sat gives you more flexibility about when and exactly where you want to go into orbit. But it's more expensive. Sometimes a rideshare on a big rocket and the chance to save on your launch expense is more suitable depending on the satellite, its mission, and the budget. Far more important is the orbital inclination, or the angle of the satellite's orbit relative to the equator. It's much easier to move a satellite into a higher or lower orbit than to change its inclination, and that's why all launch customers have to decide how their mission priorities and budget can align when choosing how to get to space.
It's getting to the point that hitching a ride on the really big rockets, it works for some people, it doesn't work for all business cases. And so you've got small sat ventures that say, we want our own rides.
Those customers will determine which of these small rocket companies succeeds and which of the companies will fail.
This is not the internet where you build up a huge user base and then you figure out how to monetize them later.
Anomaly
Launch doesn't work
analyzed.
that way. You've got to build up a backlog of customers.
Out of the more than 120 small and medium-sized launch companies out there, just one is successfully launching rockets for customers right now, and that is Rocket Lab.
People can actually rock on up to us and we'll fly them. That's a great competitive advantage to have over folks that are still developing a vehicle.
Peter Beck's Rocket Lab has raised over $280 million from outside investors, with a valuation of more than $1 billion, and is currently flying a rocket every 30 days.
It looked like the hardest thing to do was to go from 0 to first successful flight. But really going to first successful flight through to producing one every month has been equal amount of stress and energy and complexity and toughness. And obviously we completed our test flights and moved into full commercial operations. First flight of its business time.
Cold wave approaching.
And while other rocket companies are looking to build their customer base, Rocket Lab can't meet the rising demand for launches.
Our biggest issue is we can't build enough rockets. That is our challenge. We've built 4.5 acres of new factories, and we're pushing in every direction we can to build more capacity. To be fair, that there aren't, we are the only dedicated solution available in the marketplace right now, and at an affordable price. So we see
new
tremendous
colonists have
amount of
arrived.
demand.
So the demand is there. That's not the issue. The issue is figuring out how to provide reliability, scale and cadence while keeping prices as low as possible. And each company has its own approach.
Every company has a unique way to building their rocket. Whether they're using liquid, solids, fuels, or a combination of the two, whether they're 3D printing, their stages, everyone has their unique approach to getting to a rocket.
Research complete.
However, the bottom line is good business in space is exactly like good business on Earth. A focus on customers, incremental successes, and a vision that's supported by a real business model is what works in space just as it works on Earth.
One of the companies who believes they have a successful business model is Firefly, a medium-sized launch company based out of Austin, Texas.
So I'm going to run through this part of the procedure. Okay, please set bang bang press logic to the next pressure increment. We will go in 10 psi increments, starting from ambient, with a window of 1.
So in the next 6 months, Firefly's going to launch this rocket. We've been working on it for years now, and we're going to have that cathartic moment where we launch the rocket. Everything's going to go great.
But the outlook for Firefly wasn't always so rosy.
This is a very difficult business. There are a lot easier ways to make money in the world than building a rocket company. And you have a lot of setbacks. You have technical setbacks, you have financial setbacks. But the most challenging one for me has been the financial setbacks.
Firefly, like many other rocket companies, is familiar with financial setbacks. Vector, one of the more well-known launch startups, ran into financial woes in the summer of 2019 and saw their CEO depart amid uncertainty about the company's future. Back in 2017, Firefly, then known as Firefly Space Systems, was saddled with financial instability and filed for bankruptcy. That's when Silicon Valley investment fund Noosphere Ventures swooped in, bought their assets, and rebranded the company to Firefly Aerospace.
I've learned a lot about the types of investors that you want to have involved in this. That learning has made us, I think, very strong to push through this time.
As an investor and as sort of one of the financial sort of people behind the company, I try to encourage the team to think beyond simply building a product, but building a business.
Thank God we went bankrupt, frankly. We have a better product now. I have a better partner who lets me do what I'm good at doing, and he funds the project, and I'm not off humping .com guys' legs. Please give me $100,000.
Now, after 2 years of R&D, they're about to launch their first rocket.
The plan is to have 5 launches next year. All 5 of them will be from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California.
But the next thing is to start adding technology as an established company and reusability and continuing to drive the cost down. And we want to do things in a different way.
companies like Firefly are hard-pressed to differentiate themselves to stand out to investors and attract customers.
Differentiated by our payload class. Even amongst small launchers, we are a big small launcher. So our first rocket, Alpha, is capable of carrying 1,000 kilograms of normal 500 kilograms and less area.
That bigger payload means they can service bigger clients such as NASA and other federal agencies like the US Air Force.
We are on track to be able to provide NASA lunar lander capabilities, landing on the moon in the 2021 timeframe, and these will typically be launched in early 2021.
Firefly has restructured and rebuilt its organisation from the ground up, but the question remains if they can remain competitive when it comes to price.
We currently have a backlog of about $1.3 billion and a pipeline of over $3.5 billion for our launch services alone.
If we fly according to our projected flight rates, we expect to be cash flow positive by the end of 2020. We're very conscious of cost. That's one of the fundamental tenets of new space. So Firefly will try to be competitive with anyone, and we take all competition seriously.
That competition comes not only from other small and medium launch companies, but large ones as well, like SpaceX, who announced a small-sat solution priced as low as $1 million for payloads up to 150 kilograms.
Which equates approximately $15,000 per kilogram to polar sun-sync orbit. Coincidentally, that is exactly the same as the Firefly unit economics for our Alpha vehicle.
Firefly believes they can deliver something that Elon Musk's space giant cannot.
Unlike SpaceX, where those satellites will be one of many, quite possibly one of 60, our partners will have the same unit economics, but will have a much more custom, dedicated offering. It could be one of 4, one of 5 satellites on our fairing.
Rideshare is not the best opportunity for a lot of small satellite customers. In some ways, it's like hitchhiking. You don't get to go exactly where you want to go, and you don't get to go on your own time schedule. And that's important to a lot of customers.
In 5 years' time, Firefly plans to not just be launching a rocket, but a family of rockets.
We are interested in building a multi-billion-dollar business, and in order to do that, we know that we need to be cost competitive with whatever the market throws at us, not just simply what the competition is doing today.
And one of those competitors is in Long Beach, California. Virgin Orbit is an offshoot of Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic Space Company, and while they're a medium-sized launch company just like Firefly and Rocket Lab, their approach to getting a rocket into orbit is a bit different.
Virgin Orbit is a dedicated small satellite launch vehicle that is seeking to revolutionize the small satellite market. We're utilizing our flying launch pad. It's a Boeing 747-400 aircraft that we modified, and it has an attached rocket under the left wing of the plane. It's a 2-stage rocket, liquid oxygen, kerosene rocket that has been flown before and has many successes.
Some of those other successes are by their sister company Virgin Galactic, who has used this launch pad drop technology for space tourism instead of small satellites, which they believe is a difference maker in the industry.
Everything we built around the air launch system is meant to mitigate against, long-term delays. For example, an air launch system can fly in most weather conditions. Because we're air launch, our cadence is very quick, so it only takes 4 to 6 hours to really fuel the rocket, attach to the plane and take off on a mission. And having that flexibility, having that quick cadence turnaround time is critical to making sure that payloads can get to orbit when they want to get there.
That flexibility is what most small launch companies hope will set them apart.
That responsive, rapid launch to exactly where you want to go, that appeals to government users. Government missions, scientific missions, government military missions, government intelligence missions are all exploring the potential for lower total cost small launch vehicles that can do exactly what they need when they need it.
And without even having a successful full-duration test launch, Virgin Orbit already has a backlog of customers.
Of course, we see the market expanding. There's a lot of potential out there. So we certainly could see ourselves providing even more launch support than between 20 and 24 a year. And of course, that is a more mid to long-term goal.
Ignition.
Wow.
The future for companies like Rocket Lab, Firefly and Virgin Orbit looks promising. But what about the hundreds of smaller launch companies out there?
Will everybody survive? Probably not. There's not enough demand for 100 and some odd rockets that are currently in development.
We absolutely believe that the window to invest in launch has already closed. There are some investors who made some early good plays here that are going to work out very well, but at this point the industry is well past that kind of venture capital investment stage, in our opinion. So we see it shaking out to maybe 10 companies surviving.
The launch industry is unforgiving. It's not very tolerant of failures.
On behalf of Arianespace, I wish to express my deepest apologies to our customers for the loss of their payload and telling them how sorry I am.
If you're having a bad run of luck, you don't get a whole lot of patience out of the market before people start using other rockets.
The technology of space activities is fascinating. The technological challenges are extraordinary. The competence that it requires to conduct operations in space is intimidating.
The launch industry has an energized, passionate collection of engineers, venture investors, and designers, singularly focused on moving private enterprise off the planet. It's not just a new industry, but a new way of seeing the world and working above it.
Once you have that cheap access to space, now you have entirely new business models that close that didn't before. You have an entirely new use cases for space as an environment. You have an entire ecosystem of support services that are developing to support those satellites that are being launched in the next 5 to 7 years. And so that has kind of unlimited amount of economic development, economic growth possibility there.
You know, I kind of liken where we are right now to the very first beginnings of the internet, where we were just starting to send emails. That's really where we are in space. We're just starting to send emails. And if you go back when you just started sending emails, and if I said to you all of the stuff that was going to occur because of the internet, you wouldn't believe me, right? You would think that's just crazy. But that's where I think we're at right now, is we've sent our first email, and now space is opened up to innovators to really try new things.
That's why perfecting a world of launch is just the beginning. Rockets aren't just providing a platform for spaceflight, but a platform for innovation. As we figure out the business of how we get to space, the next problem is, where do we stay? On the next episode of Giant Leap, the International Space Station is nearing its retirement, and NASA wants to open the door for commercial companies to develop the technology and the business to create our next space habitats.
Four rooms, Earth view. Sounds far-fetched at the moment, doesn't it? But you know, we may be seeing ads like this in the not-too-distant future.
Living away from Earth has always captured our imagination. As well as providing the basics for survival, these ideas are a symbol of humankind's unique creativity and ambition.
This advanced base, or space station, will be headquarters for the final ascent to the moon.
Today, the idea of multiple outposts where we can live and work in space has never seemed closer.
We're gonna fly. It's about making our lives the best we can make it. It's about, as a species, having a path for our future.
And the mission to create these habitats is well underway, as private companies get ready to take that next giant leap. The International Space Station. It's the only space habitat we have.
One of the first places they take you in the ISS is the cupola, so you can finally look at the Earth
Funding
in all its
received.
beauty. And I don't care who you are, it's always stunning, it's shocking, it's amazing, because that's the view you've been waiting for your entire life.
It passes over 90% of the world's population, without most of us ever realizing. And at an estimated cost of $150 billion, it's the most expensive object we've ever built.
Think about like the Sistine Chapel, the pyramids, the Burj Khalifa, or take your pick. I mean, it far outstrips those. It's the one and only non-terrestrial human outpost. We've had a constant human footprint in orbit for almost 20 years because of the International Space Station.
The collaboration between 15 countries started construction in 1998 and was pieced together in space over the course of a decade. Since 2000, it's been a permanently crewed research laboratory, a space habitat that's allowed humankind to live, manufacture, and explore beyond Earth.
The overarching achievement of the space station has been education. It has educated us about how to do research, it's educated us about how to live, it's educated us about the harshness of the environment that it is in, and it's about learning, I think.
People say what was one of your favorite parts about being up there? Hands down, floating everywhere I went. But your first impressions for ISS certainly is, it's how big it is.
The ISS is the size of an American football field, with most of that footprint taken up by 8 solar
Sector
arrays.
scanned.
These provide enough energy to power 40 homes. The station has an American side
Anomaly
and a Russian
analyzed.
side, as well as contributions from other nations like Canada, Japan, and the European Union. Astronauts on board can pass freely between these sections. Their living and working areas are made up of modules, each 4.2 meters in diameter, and in total, they have the same volume as a Boeing 747. The 3 main labs, Destiny, Hope and Columbus, are conducting up to 600 ongoing experiments at any one time. And while it's been a collaboration between governments to build and maintain the ISS, its next chapter will rely more on private enterprise.
Today is a very remarkable day. NASA is opening the International Space Station to commercial opportunities and marketing these opportunities as we've never done before.
Managing and maintaining the ISS costs $3.4 billion a year. That's over half NASA's space operations budget. Aging hardware and space debris will only add to these costs, which is why NASA is now hoping to pass some responsibility for the station over to commercial companies.
We would like to see a robust commercial marketplace in low Earth orbit where space stations exist outside of NASA. The goal being that NASA could be a customer, and we want to have numerous providers that are competing against each other on cost and innovation.
With federal funding proposed to stop in 2025, opening the station to private enterprise would free up resources for the space agency's ambitions to return to the moon and journey to Mars.
Transferring to a more commercial model is allowing industry to take over many of those areas that NASA has traditionally been responsible for, like the design and operations and maintenance of space systems. But the most exciting part, I think, is new opportunities. The iPhones would have never come from the government, for instance. The base technology came from the government, but the way it's used, the way it interacts with consumers, governments aren't really built for that. So I think that will be exciting to see how private industry uses the same technology or the same systems.
Research complete.
In a different way.
Every NASA achievement has been the collaborative achievement of NASA and industry. What's going on right now that's a little bit different is NASA is turning to companies not to direct them what to do,
New
but it's
colonists
turning
have
to companies
arrived.
to build relationships with them because those companies are attracting investment from non-space sources and are bringing a different kind of innovation to the table.
Cold wave approaching.
In the shadow of NASA's sprawling Johnson Space Center, the headquarters of startup Axiom Space might seem a little modest, but their goal is big, to build the first commercial space station. Led by a former ISS program manager, the team has been involved in every mission to the station since its inception.
We know it has to be much lower cost to operate on orbit than ISS is today, so this is key to continuing the heritage of ISS, is to start there so we can evolve everybody to the next platform. I liken this to the internet. So the internet was created and we got very excited, and any kid with a good idea and just the basic programming skills could go build a program to do something. We have huge companies that grew out of that, and still today there's new ideas, new things being built. The thing about a microgravity environment is it's limitless. It's like the data we have access to on the internet. It is limitless. And it is not immediately obvious to us all the benefits that that's going to entail, but over time it will become very, very obvious.
By 2024, Axiom plans to send a central node to attach to the ISS. That will make up the core of their new station. This will be followed by crew quarters for 16 people and research and manufacturing modules. When the ISS is retired, this will break away. Additional modules with a lifespan of 30 years will be added and swapped out as they age using a robotic arm. And they're hoping to do all of this for 1/50th the cost of the ISS.
I mean, when you talk about our vision, it sounds really simple. It really is about driving the thought process and the cost down so that anybody that wants to take advantage of our place in orbit and a microgravity environment can do so. That's really it.
Okay, Ellen, I need to go towards my speed.
The International Space Station is a fantastic vehicle, but one of the big things is they have quite a few major components outside, which means you have to do an EVA, a spacewalk, to go fix it. A spacewalk on a good day is 100 hours of
Research complete.
to go do the spacewalk, so we're able to take advantage of the reduced size of components. And so our design is going to have all of the components are going to be in the pressurized environment. So we know what the basics are, you know, water, food, clothing, life support, and we know how to handle those. And now the next step is how do we make it more intuitive? And we want to now take advantage of the technologies and the capabilities we have today to build more luxury into the experience. The objective is to make the environment the background for all the users. You're every day doing whatever you want to do on orbit, research, manufacturing, looking out the window, whatever you're there to do, we want you to be able to do that and not even think about the environment. And it's because of our experience on ISS and what the team brings to Axiom Space, we're able to build that environment. You won't worry about that.
3, 2, 1, release, release, release.
Fire, fire.
Like Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin, Axiom is hoping to attract space tourists with tickets starting at $55 million for a 10-day mission. But that's just one part of the commercial space station market that they think could be worth $37 billion over the next decade.
Our first commercial customers are countries who have astronauts in space and want to expand their activity in space, and countries who do not yet have a human spaceflight program who want to send people up. And we've now got both research and manufacturing companies who want to do work with us while we're at the International Space Station and on our platform after it separates from ISS. Human spaceflight is particularly exciting because it's that slice of space that is really nascent. It hasn't undergone the crowding that satellites have had. It hasn't already had that explosive growth. It's really ready for that. The first thing I'm really looking forward to seeing happen is the face of our first astronauts on orbit looking back down on us and knowing that we had a hand in sending that person to space. And ultimately the separation of ISS when it's ready to be retired and deorbited and we continue in space independently. For me, that is a stepping off moment for humanity. It's almost like when Neil Armstrong put that first boot on the moon. This will be the first time that we've gone from a platform of learning how to live in space to building our permanent home in space.
Other private companies also want to use the ISS as the starting point of their own ventures. Bigelow Aerospace already has one of its inflatable structures attached to the station, and others, including Sierra Nevada and Nanoracks, proposals.
Space habitats are expensive. I think it's a false dichotomy to say, okay, we're done with the International Space Station, let's move on to commercial platforms. What I think is much more likely and realistic in what NASA is certainly driving toward is an incremental transition where commercial platforms attach to the space station or work collaboratively with the space station. The next chapter cannot occur without the active engagement of companies. That said, that active engagement might not be as customers,
Sector
might not
scan.
be as drivers, it might be in service of government mission objectives.
We will return American astronauts to the moon, not only to leave behind footprints and flags, but to build the foundation we need to send Americans to Mars and beyond.
This proposed mission, along with SpaceX's own ambition to reach a red planet, has opened up a longer-term market, and some companies are already thinking beyond orbiting habitats like space stations to actually building on the surface of other planets.
I was working in a firm designing
skyscrapers, and I saw Elon and he landed his Falcon X rocket in the middle of the ocean, and that for me was a trigger. I thought, wow, this could actually happen, and it's always been my dream to put a building on the moon or Mars. And if he's going at the pace he's going, it could definitely happen within my lifetime, and I want to be the one to build it.
In this warehouse, alongside startups from across the US, architecture firm atRYNEy Factory are refining the production of Marsha, a four-story structure they created for a NASA competition to design the next generation of space habitats on Mars.
When we started designing our Mars habitat, Marsha, we looked at everything that had been done already and kind of tossed that aside. But what we were given was a set of guidelines from NASA. They think the best way to build a habitat on Mars or the moon is to use what they call in situ resource utilization. So use the materials that are there. If you've seen sci-fi movies, you might see like glass and steel domes on distant planets, but the reality is to ship that kind of material to the moon or Mars would be so exorbitantly expensive you would never be able to build in the first place. So the idea is to send a 3D printing robot which can then harvest the materials you find on a site and build with that.
The reusable raw material is a mix of biopolymer,
Research complete.
Like corn and sugarcane, and basalt, a rock found on Mars and Earth.
It's the rock that gives us its incredible strength. We've tested this material. It's 3 times as strong as concrete in compression, and it actually has what we call a tensile capacity to prevent itself from being pulled apart, which is something concrete's not very good at. You need to think at all times how you optimize the amount of material that you use, and that's also why this thing is shaped like an egg. And if you think of an egg, it's a very structurally optimized form. It's very, very thin, but it provides the strength that the egg needs, and that's why this is shaped the way that it is.
The action, as well as the nested shell structure, also accommodates for extreme differences in pressure and temperature on the surface of Mars. But more research still needs to be done to find out how print materials
Resources
could be
are
gathered
low.
and how 3D printing would work in a unique environment of space.
You're dealing with a completely different set of physics and environments, which is very harsh. The cold, the low gravity, the vacuum of space, and finding solutions for how to build there or do anything in space just requires a high degree of innovation. There's no such thing as brute force when it comes to space. Like, you need to think about the problem, find a very elegant, lightweight, cost-effective solution. The next challenge is really going to places on Earth, literally taking the dirt that we're finding on a site and beginning to print with the dirt. We have to perfect this technology on Earth, and then we go prove it out on the moon, and then finally onto Mars.
The first customers could include NASA and companies like SpaceX, who would lease out these structures for individual missions. But before that, atRYNEy Factory hoped their technology could be monetized as well as transformational here on Earth.
The challenges of building on Mars forced us to kind of make this jump in construction technology, which we can now apply on Earth, to build more sustainably. So rather than building with steel and concrete, which are these manufactured, very energy-intensive materials, to go to a site, have a solar-powered array that would then allow our 3D printer to print in the most sustainable way possible. And we never would have found these ways if it wasn't for the challenge of building in space.
3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of the Falcon 9 to the space station on the first commercial launch from Kennedy Space Center's historic Pad 39A.
Humans have now been consistently living and working in space for more than 15 years. And if we want to keep that up, what do habitats need to look like? And frankly, they can be large or they can be small, but the future of space habitats really, to me, comes down to the ability to persistently maintain human presence. Whether that's a few people or many people, that seems to be the dividing line between where we were before and where we want to go.
We have to learn how to benefit from what we do on orbit and bring those natural benefits back home so we help ourselves out on the ground while we also learn to live somewhere else. And it really, at the very deepest level, is about survival of our species. So I get pretty excited when I spend a few moments thinking about what we're off to go do, because this really is the first step to learning to live off the planet.
That first step is just the start of our journey to create a lasting legacy in space. While commercial companies may be stepping in to imagine what these new space habitats look like, it's what's happening inside of them that may unlock the future of space industrialization. On the next episode of Giant Leap, we'll visit the private companies who are looking to build their business around manufacturing in space. Using the unique properties of microgravity, they plan to create new materials with extraordinary qualities that can't be replicated on Earth, including new manufacturing techniques that could change how we build large structures in space and even unlock the ability to 3D print full human organs. But before low Earth orbit can become a new industrial center,
No
we're going to
active
need to take
research.
another giant leap.
New colonists have arrived.
Building new things has led to some of humanity's biggest leaps forward. We made tools, forged new materials, and learned to produce them for millions, and then billions. With every new innovation comes new industries, new economies, new challenges. And we're always looking for what comes next.
3, 2, 1. SpaceX Falcon Heavy, go for launch.
The industrialization of space, I think, will be one of the great economic booms of this century.
Space offers a whole new environment to create things we can't make on Earth.
Gravity in general is something that we all just take for granted
Funding
because it's always
received.
here. It affects everything.
Sector
what becomes
scan.
interesting is what happens when you take that away.
Private
Milestone
companies are
achieved.
creating new materials, 3D printing tools, even living tissue, and developing the technology to build entire factories in space. If successful, for-profit manufacturing could lead to a new gold rush, launching the business of space to its next giant leap.
Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, and many other industrialists and investments go up there, but there has to be a why. There has to be a reason to go to space.
We want to see a very robust commercial marketplace in space, but the other thing that we have to do is we have to prove the industries that ultimately are going to be able to take advantage of the microgravity environment of space.
In space, we're opening the way to private enterprise.
Since the 1980s, companies have been investigating the unique properties of microgravity, yielding major breakthroughs in the areas of biomedicine and advanced materials research. And now some are looking to start production.
Manufacturing in space has at its core the following idea. This extraordinary environment with a completely different set of environmental factors than the Earth can enable you to manufacture things that you couldn't manufacture on Earth that have value.
Our economy has historically been a value-added economy, right? We take raw material and we turn it into steel, and we sell that steel for profit. Finding new ways of making things is historically the makings of economic boom.
3, 2, 1.
Research complete.
Ignition. Liftoff.
In July of 2019, SpaceX's CRS-18 launched with over a dozen new research projects, including investigations being conducted by Goodyear and Adidas. Both companies hope that studying their products in microgravity could unlock new opportunities. Also aboard the mission is a biomaterial 3D printer, and with it, the chance to print whole human organs.
Spark BFF on site board. Go ahead. So you were working with DMC to go ahead and get our command for early prep? Yes, bandwidth is available.
Okay, so I'm just testing where the numbers are and making sure they're to the hard stop.
Christina, we should be good to go hands-free now. Copy the thumbs up. We do want to start by opening up the cassette kit.
It's just past 3 a.m. and the team at TechShot is prepping their initial printing run for the newly arrived biofabrication facility, or BFF. Fueled by coffee and the type of food you might expect to find at 3 a.m., the team is working directly with astronauts aboard the ISS, all from the comfort of TechShot headquarters, located just outside Louisville, Kentucky.
Now we want to double check that the smart pumps are in the up position. We're going to be sliding the cassette in, and we just don't want to bump them with the cassette.
I see.
That looks great. We are good to go ahead and put the door back on.
Okay, copy that.
We'll be able to do some printing.
Definitely.
From the outside, the BFF doesn't look that much different to traditional 3D printers. But inside, these smart pumps are being loaded with living cells. And for the company, all eyes are focused on the inaugural drop, paving the first biological brick on the long road to printing human organs.
Currently, there's over 113,000 people on the organ donation list, and 22 people are dying every day because there's not an organ available. BFF has that
Sector
long-term
scan.
potential to someday maybe be able to provide some hope and a cure for some of those people.
This is John Bellinger, the CEO of TechShot, a company he co-founded over 30 years ago. While his latest project just succeeded in its initial test prints, the BFF has a long way to go before it's printing anything as complex as a human liver or heart.
TechShot is demonstrating the BFF technology with its current flight, and we anticipate being able to print organs and structures might be 5 to 10 years out.
Bioprinters have been on Earth for over a decade and can print things like ear and nose cartilage that are living tissue. But for complex systems like organs, the difficulty has been printing the vascular networks within the tissue itself. Without vascular tissue to distribute the needed nutrients, any printed cells would die off well before they could be used. And TechShot believes that gravity is a big part of the challenge.
So let's just say that you want to create something that has one layer of cells, and then on top of that, a different layer of cells, and then on top of that, like a third layer of cells. So one way that you could do that would be to just print one cell in a layer, and then your second layer with another type of cell, and then your third layer with another type of cell. But depending on those materials, over a short period of time, those cells may not stay in those layers. They may settle out and then end up combining.
You know, you think of, printing, if you tried to print with water here on Earth, what would happen? You just squirt out like out of a water gun. And that is because in a gravity environment, everything wants to just squirt out, wet out, and spread out. But in the microgravity environment, you don't have to worry about any of that. So you have a much wider range of materials that you can print.
To combat the effects of gravity on Earth, researchers have used scaffolded structures in order to support the growing cells.
The problem is a lot of ways that is accomplished isn't necessarily the best for biology. It can limit the types of materials that you can use, and it can also limit the types of cells that can really thrive in that environment. In microgravity, you wouldn't necessarily have to do that. You could have your different layers or areas or sections of different types of cells and put them next to each other, and there are no other forces that are going to cause them to mix. So you have this opportunity to be able to make these small regions in 3 dimensions in a different type of way and different type of structure that would be very difficult to do on the ground.
Microgravity-enabled bioprinting still has numerous hurdles to cross before it can produce a product for sale. Only now that the printer is operating aboard the ISS can researchers begin to understand the correct materials
Funding
and
received.
process necessary
Resources
not
are
only to print
low.
organs, but to culture and preserve them long enough to return back to Earth. But all that time and research is part of TechShot's plan.
TechShot's business model is to be a tech engine and generate new technologies. That if we feel like that technology has potential, commercial potential, we spin that off into a different company or to a different group.
They liken their business to Levi Strauss in the 1800s. During the gold rush, Levi Strauss started out by providing canvas material for tents and wagons. And when those miners needed a more durable fabric, the now iconic blue jeans were born.
The business model of selling pickaxes as opposed to going out and panning for gold really certainly applies to space, and there are many companies at the component level that are providing products and services to launch companies, to satellite operators, to NASA. One of the challenges in that business model is you need a gold mine.
It's not clear that 3D printed organs could set off any kind of a gold rush to space, so in order to stay in business, TechShot needs to have other projects, making sure it doesn't keep all of its eggs in one satellite.
This is my science fair project that I started in 8th grade. The whole experiment was to see how would the chicken embryo develop in space without the presence of gravity. This science project evolved into the space shuttle project.
Imagine this chicken egg in the back of the barnyard. Gravity is causing the yolk to fall to the bottom of the egg. Now the hen has a natural instinct of turning that egg around. So therefore the yolk will go back up to the top and gravity pulls it back down to the bottom again. Now what would happen to that egg up in space?
The project was sponsored by Kentucky Fried Chicken, in which their worldwide headquarters is located in Louisville. So the engineer that I worked with, Mark Deucer, he and I are the ones who decided to start TechShot and started right
Meteor
here in Louisville,
incoming.
Kentucky. We started in a motel. It was just two rooms, and eventually we went into 4 rooms of the motel. And then as TechShot matured and developed and gained more projects and more opportunities, then we decided, we're in this for the long haul. And so we built a world-class research facility here that we're sitting in today.
And here, just across the street from that first motel room, TechShot is currently working on 15 active projects, creating technology for NASA, the military, and major pharmaceutical companies, all with the goal to support researchers in microgravity.
Last year was TechShot's best year in its history. I think that's reflective of the excitement of the new opportunities that are out there for space.
And if they're lucky, one of these projects could yield that catalyst of a space gold rush. But they aren't alone in this race. Another company located in Silicon Valley views making things in space as core to their mission, even down to their name. This is fiber optic cable. It works because the fiber reflects light over and over inside the structure. And even if you bend it, the light still comes through the other end. But in this application, it's nothing more than a modern-looking lava lamp. The best fiber optic cable is being used to transmit data all over the world. In fact, undersea cables carry 99% of all the data that crosses oceans. Optical fiber, usually made from silica, is important because it can transmit data incredibly quickly over a long distance before needing to have its signal amplified. But research done by the US Air Force in the 1990s proved that it would be possible to produce a fiber known as Z-blan that could far exceed traditional silica fiber. The only catch, it needs to be made in microgravity.
Z-blan is an optical glass that has a transmission window that's about 5 times wider than traditional silica glass, and it has a signal loss that's 10 to 100 times better than traditional silica glass.
This is Andrew Rush, the CEO of Made in Space, a company with a mission to create a new industrial foothold in space. And it sees Z-blan as potentially the first material that can be made in space and sold on Earth.
So this is a preform of Z-blan. It starts out as this nice dog bone cylinder, and then it gets inserted into a furnace. This gets thinner and thinner, thinner than the width of your own hair, and then you start pulling that. So if everything works out, you get a spool like this from our earlier test runs. Basically, it looks like fishing line.
While it is possible to produce Z-blan on Earth, it's nowhere near the potential of what you can produce in microgravity.
Earth manufactured Z-blan suffers from too many crystals in the material. And basically what happens is when light or power goes through these crystal domains, they reduce each time, creating a power loss throughout the the length of fiber you're going through. Microgravity suppresses these formations, and doing so creates more of a monocrystalline structure, so you have all these domain drops, and you have less of a power drop over that length of fiber. You know, you can go transatlantic and
Sector
transpacific
scan.
without having
Anomaly
repeaters in the
found.
lines like traditional fiber lines do today.
You can imagine providing 5, 10, 50 times more bandwidth down the same line of fiber by using Z-band instead of silica. That you begin to scratch the surface of the economic potential of Z-band.
They estimate that a kilogram of Z-band could sell for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that high price per kilogram is important when it comes to space manufacturing.
Historically, a barrier to doing a lot of commercial activity in space has been that it costs so much money to get to space, do things, and then come back. You know, it can literally cost like tens of thousands of dollars a kilogram to launch, operate, and return. And that's why things like Z-band are so attractive, because we can sustainably sell them for tens of thousands of dollars a kilogram.
Meaning at some point, whole factories could be created in space, receiving raw material from the ground and shipping microgravity-enabled Z-band back to Earth. But the problem is, it's all still theoretical. Made in Space has been working on Z-band for over 4 years and has flown 4 missions to test their manufacturing techniques, with more planned in the future. But they still expect to be a few years away from producing a product that could be sold on Earth, let alone scaling that to larger industries.
It's very interesting and a little counterintuitive. The most successful companies in space are the companies that consistently say, how can I do this on Earth? There have been many products that started with the vision of actually manufacturing in space and ended up with a discovery phase in space and manufacturing on Earth. And that's good news for consumers. That's good news for the end users of those products, because that reduces costs. You don't build your manufacturing plant on the most expensive real estate you can possibly get a hold of. You build your manufacturing plant where you can manufacture economically.
For Made in Space, though, discovering the first product that can truly be made in space is more than just profit and loss.
The establishment of space manufacturer Z-band as a product line is core to our vision, right? That's the industrialization of space, right there. That's the Netscape moment of low Earth orbit commercialization. If in our research and development for Z-band, say, we found ways of improving Z-band that we could actually apply terrestrially, like apply in a gravity field, we would be excited about that. You know, for us, we'd take the profits from that, apply that back in, and do it more cool space.
And while the company is also investigating other materials like Z-band that can be produced in space, they've already laid the groundwork for a whole new way of thinking about in-space manufacturing. And they call it Archinaut.
So Archinaut is one of many steps toward those broader visions.
Archinaut is more of a capability than a thing. The capability can enable virtually anything you can think of in terms of structures in space. You can build large things, small things that are optimized, it doesn't really matter.
Archinaut blends robotic manufacturing with 3D printing, allowing it to create and assemble products in space. Meaning, instead of flying something, like say a satellite to space, you could create them there. But before Made in Space can use Archinaut as an in-space factory, it needs to turn its vision into a sustainable business.
There is no shortage in space of visionaries.
Well, what I really want to try to achieve here is to make Mars seem possible.
The visionaries that you're seeing succeed are the visionaries that attach their vision to an incremental pathway.
We've been very fortunate to work closely with NASA for a number of years in developing gravity-independent manufacturing technologies. And the first one of those technologies that we really tackled was 3D printing.
International Space Station has its own 3D printer, and look at this. Astronauts created the first object to be made with it. It's a white printer part.
The first print that we did was a plate for the printer, and it said NASA and it said Made in Space on it.
Is it fair to say that the person in space is a marketing department?
I mean, The first, we actually kind of joked that the first thing we did was demonstrate that you could make like self-repairing robots in space.
To date, Made in Space has created over 200 objects aboard the ISS. And with its second printer, named the Additive Manufacturing Facility, they were able to not only prove their technology, but turn it into a business.
There are Earth-sick colonists.
We struck kind of an interesting deal with them where we actually retained ownership of the device and actually operated as a service and printed parts for NASA, for other individuals, for companies, for schools. So really starting to build almost this machine shop in space kind of business model. The approach that we've taken at Made in Space has been to have this really inspiring big vision, take this big vision, decompose that into digestible chunks, steps.
Colonists are departing.
Big, fantastic
is to change how we think about manufacturing satellites.
Which will manufacture 10-meter buoys, and those 10-meter buoys will have solar arrays on them, which allow a small set to manufacture about a quarter of about a kilowatt.
The Archinaut 1 mission will launch in 2022. It's part of a public-private partnership with NASA, and the project aims to reduce the cost of putting satellites into orbit. While satellites have been getting smaller, if you need a satellite that'll require lots of power, you'll most likely need a massive solar array. But large arrays are difficult to fit into rocket payloads, the so-called tyranny of the fairing, and it gets expensive. One way around this problem was to spend heavily on engineers to devise solutions for folding arrays into compact configurations. Then deploy at their full size once in space. But all that work and extra weight on a rocket can add tens if not hundreds of millions of dollars to a launch cost.
There are
Archinaut
Earth-sick
gives satellite
colonists.
makers a new option. Include a 3D printer and robotic arm onto their existing satellites and let Archinaut build their very large solar arrays in space. This could reduce the cost of getting power-hungry satellites into orbit and potentially open up whole new industries to space.
Probably the most significant factor for the financial success of a space-based or space-related business is economies of scale.
No
The
active
more
research.
activity there is,
Research
the more
complete.
feasible it is.
No active
Both Made in
research.
Space and NASA hopes that Archinaut will help reduce the cost of doing business in space. But it's still unclear whether larger and cheaper solar arrays is the answer to finding scale in production.
A successful
Anomaly
strategy
found.
for manufacturing in space is to demonstrate capabilities and to have adaptable capabilities that can serve different customers.
When you combine that robotic assembly and additive manufacturing, it really opens the door
Meteor
for
incoming.
customization for clients.
You know, folks may say, hey, I actually don't need that much power because of my mission, but I need a big antenna, or I need a large radiator. Archinaut, because it's general, means that I can provide those services quickly and at low cost. We hope that folks see what we're doing and are inspired by it and say, hey, this is what I need. So yeah, it'd be great if somebody came to us and said, this is the thing that we want to make. And we're like, oh my gosh, that's the killer app.
The hope for Archinaut, just like with Zeblan and organ printing, is that one of these businesses can be that spark for space industrialization.
I think once people see the potential of microgravity, I think a lot more people, a lot more commercial entities will get involved in space research, because I think